Hey everybody, Matt, Ant, and Ash, just doing our prep before we kick off this mailbag episode. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. We need questions for the show. It's a mailbag show, and we need the mail. So if you've got any questions, any takes, just make sure to at ROTL UK at ROTL underscore UK in YouTube and Twitch respectively. That means I can see them, and I will get the questions in. How you doing, fellas?
Doing all right. Doing all right. There we go.
Yeah, just few days of utter chaos while prepping all this draft stuff, and then it'll be good fun. But it's draft week, and draft week's always fun. We're nearly done with mock drafts. We're nearly done with all this we've been doing for the last few months. It's so nice. Few days, and we're there.
Just noting down some questions now from you guys. I haven't done a mock draft in about 10 days, and I feel great.
I only do 3 proper ones. The half season one on the college show, the final season one on the college show, and the one for our show, like the other week. Those are the only 3 actual mock drafts I do. Outside of that, it's yeah, there's nothing. I like to stand and die by a few opinions and just see how vastly they change rather than doing one daily.
Fair enough. It'll be helped this year that PFF did what they did, making theirs a pay to do one. That's probably cut our habits back a bit.
Thanks, Court and Perry and Dan for your questions. I've got them all in there. Hey to Carlton. Hey also to Miss Harley Quinn, Giovanni Lyons, and also Dan Pask, Mike Marine, Austin Damon. I think that's everyone so far. If you've not said hi, come and say hi. Giovanni says, James suspension, no CJ Moore, no wide receiver Thornton, draft Bijan, right? What a thought. What a thought. Brent likes Gibbs over Bijan. But I'll get it in there, Brent. How you doing? Ooh, might have something from our WhatsApp. Let's have a look. Oh no, that's Ryan. Right, Ryan's going to be joining us mid-pod. That's fine. Ash, you saw my graphics, didn't you?
Yeah.
See, I want to show the people what it looks like, so I might see whether this works. So this is for the draft, and I hope it works. Who've I got? Brian Branch. Or maybe it won't work. There we go. Tell me what you think about that, folks.
Well, I'm seeing it now. That's good. I like it.
Yeah? I haven't seen it come
Yeah.
up yet on the thing. There we go.
Does it say future Lion Brian Branch?
Not yet.
Not yet, no. But it's nice and easy to read as well. That's the best thing, because I've seen some that people that did their trial runs for it, and theirs was a lot more dense and it was harder to read. So at least this one's nice and easy to read for people.
Yeah, so I've done what I think is in each position everyone that is better than 40% to go first round. So if someone is a bit of a reach, I won't have them, but I should have like 90% of the first rounders done. Oh, Derek has given us 50 bits on Twitch saying woot. Lost Ocean is in the house as well, saying nice graphic. Appreciate you. And also Dr. Detroit and Drew and Man Bear Pig are in the house. Appreciate you guys. Drew said A+, Matt. Appreciate that. Bit of news, I'll mention it on the recorded show as well, but we have temporarily been demonetized from YouTube. It's an admin thing. It's basically my fault. It's YouTube being difficult, but it was my fault. When all of this was set up, we were set up as an organization when we needed to be set up as an individual, and when it says organisation, it thinks company, but we're not a company, and we don't want to be a company because it doesn't help us in any way. So we couldn't verify our identification, which meant they couldn't pay us. So it didn't make any sense to be monetized at this point. So we'll be monetized from 2 days after the draft finishes, which is super frustrating because we've invested a bit in this draft, more than we would do normally, kind of hoping that that would all come back that way, which sucks. But there it is. If you guys do feel like you want to do a super chat, if you want to, there's a PayPal link down below, and I'm not sure if you can put a message in there, but if you do donate via that link and I see it and there's a message in there, I'll read the comment out like it's a super chat. It's just obviously it won't get highlighted in the main chat. I know that isn't great, but it's something. Whatever. Perry asks how we became Lions fans, which, Perry, believe me, is the question we get asked the most. Bar none, everyone asks it. There is a video on our YouTube channel which talks about it, but Ash, you weren't on that, so I don't want to put this in the show. So do you have reasons why you became a Lions fan?
So it's mostly because Detroit, the city, models, well, it reflects quite heavily my hometown of Birmingham, former industrial heartland. Used to make cars. Obviously, Detroit has the Ford Motor Company, General Motors. We had British Leyland and Rover, and we have Jaguar Land Rover who make cars there. And it's just, they reflect my sports team as well, Aston Villa, who you can see hanging up lovely there, lion on the logo. Great history, kind of fallen hard times in recent years, but are now making a resurgence. So obviously the Lions did well this season, and then this season for football in English football with our new manager, Villa have gone from pretty much being relegation candidates to fighting for Europe. So it's just a nice reflection, and I've just got addicted and I can't stop, as you can, all my friends and family can testify, because I do not shut up about us.
Sarah's getting fed up of me.
Same with my friends. I'm just saying, oh yeah, I'm not available Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You've got to leave me alone. I'm gonna become a golem for a couple of days.
Perry had a good question which I need to get in. This is all good. Cheers for the questions, guys. We were struggling a little bit. At this point, a little bit of draft fatigue is setting in. We've kind of done all the content we wanted to do at this point. So it's a bit more fun just to have your questions come in, because, you know, that's going to be really the pertinent stuff. So Derek just says, ouch, that's a late night for y'all. For y'all. Yeah, it will be a late night for sure. But, you know, that's what we're signing up for as NFL fans generally.
True. Because the guys in the Discord can testify, I don't go to sleep till like 4 a.m. as it is, so I'm completely fine with it.
So, in response to Drew's question about Wrexham and about the standard of league that they're going into now that they've been promoted. So they've been promoted. Yes, I know, Ant, you're not a fan. They are promoted from what's called the National League, which is the highest tier of non-league football, which used to be amateur, but the National League is a professional league now with more money being in the game. They now go up into the Football League, into the lowest division of that league. Traditionally, that would have been the lowest form of professional football, although it isn't anymore. It means they're in a more prestigious cup tournament. The standard of football isn't actually that much better, I don't think, between League Two and National League. I don't think so when I watch it. The players are paid substantially more, though, even though the standard isn't terrifically different. Honestly, I think Wrexham will go in as one of the favourites to win the division. They ran away with it so much. It's the highest points total that any team has ever scored in English football history, what they've got right now. And they already had players who were the standard of League One, and they're going into League Two, so they should still be overpowered. And they'll probably invest in the summer, so they'll probably go up again. So if you want to get on the bandwagon, it's probably not the worst time to do it.
I say, well, League One standard, you've got Ben Foster. I'd say Ben Foster would be a good Championship goalkeeper.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if he signs on again, though, I mean, he's out of contracts in June.
He probably will. I think the main reason, well, because obviously I watch his YouTube, the main reason he kind of left Watford and that was because they didn't like the whole YouTube side of things that he was going into. While, as you can see from the reactions when they got promoted and that, Ryan Reynolds and that don't care. They actually embrace it because it's more publicity for them. So I think he will happily sign back on for another year.
Thank you to Derek Bobarek, who has used the first ever hydrate channel point redemption. So it's not water, it is alcohol, but there we go.
Mine is.
And Ryan is coming in the building.
Breaking news. The Giants have agreed terms to former Lions and Rams free agent defensive tackle
Sean Robinson. Oh, Derek just said it was a butt dial.
1 year, 8 million's a lot for him. Jeez.
Sean's a good player. Sean throughout his career has been a better than average interior defensive lineman, stout against the run with pass rush upside. We could have done worse.
I know. It's because one of the question number 2, as you probably know from, because it was the one that spawned the idea that I've had. I've got Sue at 3.25 million. I might have to adjust that to make it a bit harder if Sean's signing for up to 8.
Man Bear Pig has just said, share your honest thoughts and feelings on the JMO situation. That's the number one thing we're talking about off the top. And then we'll get into draft stuff and questions from you guys. So there it is. We will definitely be telling you what's going on with that. And I'm sure that Ryan might have a little rant in there. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm all right. Just tired from work.
Congratulations on getting the job. I don't think we've spoken since you got it.
No, yeah, thanks. I've just got a lot of loose ends to try and tie up before I swap over in a few weeks.
Is it same industry?
Yeah, no, it's the same company. Everything's changing. I've just got a lot of stuff on that I could try not hand over to someone. So no days off between now and me leaving there. So we'll see.
Anyway, though, I know it was a kind of iffy moment for you, so I'm delighted for you just to kind of have that off your back.
Oh yeah, it's as long as the Grim Reaper don't come for me again in a year in this new job, then well, that's fingers crossed.
Yeah. Is it continuous employment because it's still the same company?
Yeah, no, nothing's changed. It's just literally just a new title and entirely new job. So we'll see what comes of it.
Cool. X-Loss Oceans X says, insert disappointed dad voice about JMO. I don't think there's going to be any of that. Maybe there will be. I don't know. That's a good question, Perry. That's going in. Right, so we've got talking about gambling. More gambling on Wednesday, but a bit more fun. Then just final draft thoughts from us fellas, and then just going through a load of questions from the guys. Anything else we want to talk about?
The would you rather situations I've got.
We'll do that before the questions, shall we?
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's a good lead-in because I think it's basic questions as it is. It's just the ones I've come up with, I guess. Hopefully, you guys don't kill me for them.
I mean, there'll be one in there about waiting for a certain FSU quarterback next year, or take someone in day 3 this year, or would you rather Jamie Robinson or, I don't know, Brandon Hill?
You're close. You're close to 2 of them, but not exactly right. But yeah. There is definitely one that involves. There's one that involves Jamie, and there's one that involves getting a first for next year.
I am all in on trying to get a first for next year. Now, we've got so many picks in this year that I just want it. I actually had a thought that maybe I should save until the recording, but I can't be asked. Drew just said his Ashes volume turned way down.
Oh, not again.
Don't turn yourself up too much because it got a bit crackly before. But if you can turn yourself up a little bit, that would be good.
How about that? Is that better?
A tiny bit, but maybe a bit more.
Tiny bit more. How about now?
That's better.
There we go. That makes.
I would package together with the Titans 6 and 81 to get 11 and a first next year. And I think that actually represents something which is a bit more realistic than just trying to go 6 for 11 and a first. Even though I don't really want to trade down to 11 because I think you miss out on some really great talent, and 11's kind of no man's land. But I want that first.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to give up a third to get it. Yeah. Anyway, what do we think about Brad Holmes' press conferences? Is he being honest or doing a smokescreen?
Both.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? The best form of lies is truth.
Exactly.
But
it's the kind of truth where it's vague enough that when we look back in 5 days, like 5-6 days time, he would have told us exactly what he's doing, but in terms that we couldn't work it out until with hindsight. It's always what happens.
Just to remind you guys about the draft show, I'll say it again in the recorded bit, but we want to try and get as many people watching us as we can for this. It's unbelievable how much time all the guys have put into this. And, it's not just this show. It's been all the shows since January that we've done. All the research that we've done since then has gone into it. I know that since probably the start of March, I've put about 80 to 100 hours of prep into this in terms of like the production of the show, in terms of trying to get the guests on and that sort of thing. It's going to be an incredibly detailed and fun show. We're streaming for 24 hours during the 3 days. If you guys have any time at all just to pop on, watch us for a bit or anything like that, if you know people who are looking for something to watch during, you know where we are. Anything you can do, much, much appreciated. Right. Fellas, ready to go?
Yep.
Here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 189, In the Eye of the Storm. My name's Matt, alongside Ryan, Ant, and Ash. How you doing, boys?
Doing good. Excited for the next week ahead.
That's it. Finally made it. Draft week. Can't wait for it to come. I'm ready. I'm ready for all the action now.
I'm a bit relieved as well. It's here as well because it feels like now all the speculation is over. I've had a break and a detox as well. I've muted a lot of words in the last few days on Twitter, and I feel much better for it.
I feel like doing that with Will Levis's name is providing a lot of value right now. Don't know about you, because so he was dropping out of the first round a week ago. And now he's like the favourite for number 2 overall. Like I don't get it. It's lying season, but it's going into overdrive. Anyway, we'll get into that in just a second. This is draft week, so can you be more excited? Let's get into some preamble first. Discord channel. It's going to be a hotbed of excitement this week, so do make sure to get yourself in there. I'm going to pop a link in the chat for YouTube and Twitch now. It's nice that we've had a few additions in the last few days, so do come join the fun. College football podcast, fellas, you had one last week. I know the audio hasn't quite gone up yet, but you were talking about the Mac, I think.
Yeah, so we had James on from our Discord. We ended up chatting for a couple of hours. It was all Mac season from 2022, the college football season itself, and then Mac draft prospects for this draft. So the audio will go up tonight. I've just been really busy with work, not a chance to put it up. But yeah, give it a check out. And we're on break now. So next you'll hear from us in about a month's time. We'll be starting with season 3. We'll be starting the conference previews for 2023, but there is a boatload of work that needs to go into those first. So we'll be back soon enough.
Don't forget to like the show and sub to the podcast. We are a Twitch affiliate, which means if you've got a Prime subscription, you get a free subscription every single month on Twitch. If you can throw that our way, much obliged. I mentioned it in the pre-show. We've been temporarily demonetized on YouTube until just after the draft. They've set us up wrongly. There's nothing I can do about it. It sucks. The other side of that, I've put a PayPal link in the description below. If you do like what you're seeing and you want to donate to us, you can pop something in there. If you put a message in there, I will shout that out on stream if I see it. That's the best workaround I can do, but anything you can do, much appreciated during the most fun week of the year. Feedback form is also in the YouTube chat, so if you've got any suggestions, please do put that in there. And our next giveaway should be live in the next day or two. So if you want to support your favourite Lions podcast, keep your eyes open on Twitter in the next day or two, and we'll get that going. Right, we're going to talk draft. We're going to open up the mailbag, but first, there's obviously a little bit of news to get to with the betting scandal that broke late last week. Lions staff were let go last month. JMO and Berryhill were given 6-game bans for betting on 6 games,
yeah.
non-NFL games in an NFL facility. CJ Moore and Quintez Cephas were given minimum 1-year bans for betting on NFL games in an NFL facility. They were instantly released by the Lions. There's also someone else that I don't care about involved.
Tony from the Commanders.
Still don't care. Guys, what do we make of what's going on? Obviously, the staff being involved is really worrying in itself. Cephas, CJ Moore have been around a little while. Berryhill and JMO a bit younger. Ryan, I'm going to come to you first just because I feel like you're going to bring the passion to this one. What do you make of it?
Do you know what? Jameson, JMO was the first word I muted on Twitter after a day. It's weird, like I say. I don't care about Cephas anyway. I don't think he was going to make the team. He's actually made our job easier. So good luck for him. They were going to have to be reinstated in a year anyway now. So like I say, they were foolish after what they saw happen to Calvin Ridley. So him and CJ Moore, fools. So they deserve everything they've got, unfortunately. I would have released them instantly too. Berryhill, don't care about him. Non-factor. Bit of a fool. Jameson, very naive and silly. Like, it's just very stupid, the whole thing. Like I said, I'm more worried about the staff because the staff doing it is way more out of line. That represents a terrible culture. What, are they all doing it together? I think that's really bizarre. It sets a terrible example for the players. Now, everyone on Twitter is moaning about the rules, saying the rules are stupid. The rules are rules. Don't matter how stupid they are. It don't matter what you think about them. The players broke them. Like I say, if Jamo had gone 10 feet away outside the parking lot when he got suspended, he literally just had to roll his car out the driveway, place the bet, to been fine. But that little lapse in judgment has cost him 6 games. And this will either go one of two ways, I think. He can either use the 6 games to stew on it or feel sorry for himself and not get focused about returning. And then he can suffer next year, and then we'll trade him in the next off-season because the relationship has become fractured. Or he can knuckle down. He can show that he's actually sorry and he made a bad thing. Or he can come back with a vengeance next year when he's available to play and he can show us what he's got. Because right now, he's very much teetering on the balance of people already losing faith in him, whether or not that's justified, but he's in a very precarious situation right now. He's a bit like Marmite to some people, but I still have faith in him. All I want him to do now is keep his head down and do not appeal it. If he appeals it, I'll be pissed off. He's earned this suspension. Now serve it. It won't get reduced anyway because the gambling situation right now is they're going to make an example of these guys. So it won't get reduced anyway, but he just do his time, keep his head down, and then get ready for when he can come back and get back to work. But everyone else involved, foolishness. Jamo, I'm hoping this will teach him a lesson and it will speed up a maturity process. I'm not out on him by any means just yet. Some people are, and that's why I just muted on Twitter. I just distance myself from the whole situation because there's some wild takes out there, and people are slandering his name pretty heavily.
Fellas?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Rye. The rules are the rules. I know it's hard. I know it's worse for the staff in the fact that they can't gamble at all. They're not allowed to gamble on anything, anywhere. If the team, even if they walk into a bookmakers, they can instantly get sacked. That's how tough it is for the staff. But they should know the rules. And for me, I know obviously everyone's focused on JMO, but obviously with my brand, the one I'm most upset about is CJ Moore, the guy who's been around for donkey's years, fought his way back last year from an injury and wanted to sign again with the Lions, and pretty much had himself a roster spot guaranteed because he's the personal protector and he's one of the best ones in the league. And now he's done for a year and the league might move on. I know that we're getting links with Daniel Scott, the cow safety, to come in and replace him. That's it. CJ Moore, pretty much, he might be able to claw his way back on and get a roster spot somewhere like the Patriots in a couple of years if he shows his penitence. But for Quintez Cephas, that's him pretty much done. He's probably now USFL, XFL receiver at best because he didn't really have the production as it was anyway. And now he's had this massive lapse of judgment and it might just completely turn teams off him. He might just be stuck as a spring leaguer now. And that's kind of sad because he did show some flashes. I remember week 2 of the not this season before, where he caught that touchdown against Green Bay. He has shown flashes when he's been given the chance. It's just he's just gone and thrown it away now for the chance to earn a little money.
And
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it? It's we've been in a really good situation recently. The franchise, a lot of optimism going around, all this, that, and the other, and then this just comes along at a really awkward time. But I mean, I think it's been overblown a lot. Every organization has its bad eggs. There is no one perfect organization out there where every single employee, player, member of staff, all those are completely clean in what they do and are angels. You will get this there. And, the Lions have been very quick to dismiss those who have broken the rules, so I don't have no worry about culture or anything like that. When it's been found out, they've been dismissed. They're not part of the culture here. They're not what this new team represents. They are gone. So, I like how the organization's reacted swiftly to it. Again, I sort of echo the sentiments that, the rules, you are a bit of an idiot when you do it. So to those who have gone, good riddance. To those who are still here, with JMO, with our other receiver as well, learn from it. Just learn from it going forwards. I mean, for me, anyone who is out on JMO is insane, bordering on lunatic, because the guy's bet on a college football game. He has not shot someone, stabbed someone, beat someone, or not created. He's not caused some big kind of scandal here. This is a guy. He's a young guy who has put a bet on his phone. That is literally it. And in this day and age where online gambling is such a thing, on your phones, it's so easy and quick to do, he probably thinks, oh, click 2 buttons, done, no harm, no foul. Again, yeah, you should really know the rules, but because it's made so easy and you're in that sort of environment, it's an easy, trick to fall into. And he's still a very, very young player at the end of the day who's beginning his NFL career, and he'll learn from it. And it's up to us as fans to support him through it. I mean, he's had the hard first year because of the injury and then just wasn't able to get the chemistry going with Goff in the first year on the field. And now there's that section of Lions fans after him. And the ones who constantly have to have a target. It's been Jeff for years. People go after him. It seems JMO's the new guy to go after and try and demean and bring down and criticize and call a bust and all this crap like that. And all I would say is to anyone, if you see anyone saying that, just can ignore them. JMO needs support right now. He can be a superstar player for us, and wide receivers in the NFL especially are put under a much bigger spotlight than a lot of other positions, especially when a team trades up so far to get you and you are a flashy, explosive player. You are subject to a level of scrutiny that not many other positions, maybe outside of quarterback and that, are. And it takes time to adjust to that. It takes time to be perfect in dealing with that, in dealing with image and all this sort of stuff and trying to toe the line. And, So many of these superstar wide receivers have the same. They've got big egos. They've made mistakes. They've not adjusted really quickly to this league. But they get there. And they get there with time and patience and support. So as far as it goes with JMO, I've no issues with him whatsoever. As long as he learns from this, comes back next year, hits the ground running, fine. I'm going to back him every single step of the way. So it's a silly mistake. He will learn from it. There is absolutely no reason on God's green earth to doubt him because of this. It's just a stupid little indiscretion, nothing more. And that's that. So hopefully he learns. He can train all off season. He can be with the team. That's the big thing. He can still do all the off season stuff, which is huge. Just gonna miss a few games. So, let's keep this in perspective here and not blow it out the water. This is not doomsday. This is just a little hiccup, and we will be fine.
Just want to thank Carlton Woods, who's donated £10, says, great work. Appreciate you, Carlton. That's absolutely fantastic. Via that PayPal link I mentioned earlier. Appreciate you. Just for my own self on this, he made a small indiscretion. You're right, Ant. He's an idiot, though. Like, you're told about this rule as soon as you get in the building. Like, it's part of the law in the NFL that every employee knows these rules inside and out. Now, I know what happens in workplaces. You get a form, sign here saying you've seen this video. You might not have even watched it, but you better damn well know what the rules are, and on your head be it. It's a small indiscretion, but he deserves a penalty. I agree with Ryan. I think the problem is the penalty's too severe, so I'm annoyed at JMO. And I'm annoyed at the staff that fostered this environment, and I'm annoyed at the senior players around them as well. But I'm annoyed at him. Like, do better. But I'm not giving up on you. No way in hell. You're too talented of a guy. And from what I've seen of you, I actually like your damn personality. Sorry about everyone who thinks he's a bit of a moody git and whatever. No way! The guy looks like he's a super passionate guy who absolutely loves football. No one should be questioning whether he likes football on this. Some people suggesting he's doing this on purpose. It's like, I'm pretty sure the guy wants to get paid. So he ain't doing it on purpose. Like, he's just being a fool. But the problem is, I was pointing out in the Twitch chat, that you can get less of a sentence in the NFL for DUI. Or for assault. Or something. It's like, I'm sorry, but he didn't kill anyone. Ant said it perfectly. You know what appropriate sentence would be? 2 games? 1 game. Like, punish it. There's no way getting around the fact that this rule needs to exist. Because if you think about it for more than a second, if someone's at a betting kiosk, if someone is using a gambling site, the temptation to bet on an NFL game, which is what everyone wants to avoid, is going to be too great. It's about removing a dangerous person from the situation. And actually, the situation is not too dissimilar from gun rules in the States, which is too political, and I don't want to get into it. But the idea of remove the things so the temptation isn't there, and keep the integrity of the league there because you're removing the person from the situation entirely, is perfectly legitimate, at least on NFL property, because on NFL property you don't want to use NFL infrastructure to influence the workings of the league. So you have to ban all betting from inside the building. Like, that makes total sense. But giving them a greater ban than someone who can physically hurt people is ridiculous. And so the league deserve a huge amount of flack. The coaches deserve a huge amount of flack, and the players deserve a huge amount of flack. And that's exactly the way it should be for me. Just, the league should do better. The rule has to exist, but it doesn't have to be this punitive.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think he should have got 4 games. I think that should be like the max he should get for something like this. And for betting on NFL games, 17. Just give them a whole season. Don't make them need reinstatement.
Right, let's get on to something a bit more fun. So, guys, we're doing final draft thoughts here. We've got our Wednesday show coming up where we've got Chris Perfett on the show. It's on our usual college slot because, frankly, we've all done a bit too much. We're going to be doing hot takes. We're going to be doing draft takes. We're going to be doing betting lines, how ironic, for what's coming up. Don't rely on us to use it to do your betting. That's a really stupid thing to do. But will I make some bets based on what we're spouting? Yeah, probably, because it's a bit of fun. So do come and check out our Wednesday show. If there's anything to do with something that we might discuss on Wednesday, I'm going to skip over it and we'll return back to it on that show because we've already earmarked it for somewhere else. But Ash, you've prepared some would you rathers, and then fellas, if you've just got some draft thoughts you want to get off your chest, let's just open it up to a discussion. And then we've got the mailbag coming. Guys have been submitting questions all throughout the last 48 hours, and since we've been live too, I'm still accumulating them. So guys, if you've got any more questions, just make sure to @me so I can see it. It will go in, and we'll be here till cows come home. Right, Ash, take it away.
So I'm going to abstain from these because you can probably guess which way I'm going to go. But these are 10 situations where you have to pick doing one or the other. I know some of them will probably not want to do either, but it's an either or. Gun to your head situation. You are Brad Holmes. Dan Campbell's stressing out. He doesn't know what to do. She's like, you've got to decide for me. So number one, trade up to 3 with Arizona for Anthony Richardson, or trade back from 6 and get a 24 first rounder with next year QB's class in mind.
Easy, trade back.
Oh, so conflicted.
I'd trade up.
So, trade up to 3 and get Anthony Richardson, or trade back with Tennessee to get a first rounder?
Yeah.
Are Tennessee going to be really bad?
Yes.
Going to be
Especially
really,
with
really
top
bad?
favorite.
They're in a shocking division. You've got to take that into account.
Jags are going to be the leader in the clubhouse. Indy are going to get better after drafting quarterback who isn't a complete statue. And Houston are going to be substantially better than they were, even though they're going to be bad. So it is a bad division, but maybe not as bad as it was last year. Perry Ball. Yes, Ryan does have his lovely dog on his lap. And if you are not watching the YouTube and Twitch channel, you have no idea who Handsome Hank is. And if you watch the Around the NFL podcast, you may think that Handsome Hank is someone else. But we've got Handsome Hank right here. I would trade up for Anthony Richardson because I think that he will be better than anyone that comes out next year.
Oh. So
I'm sorry, I know the hot takes were meant to be Wednesday, but yeah, I'm a believer. I just am. I'm sold.
So that's my thinking as well. You've got to understand fancy future picks are all well and good, but you've got to look at the class coming out and everyone. And we've done this so many times. There was a time several years ago when Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell were picks 1 and 2. They were the bona fide next best thing. Save your picks next year for them. Go and get them. Neither of them went in the first. One of them's still in college because it went that wrong for him. And yes, Caleb Williams and Drake may be good, but they've had 1 year each. A lot can happen before then. And no one's talking about any other quarterbacks other than them two. And if they're going to be so great, they're going to be going at 1 and 2. Where are the Lions going to be picking next year? Not even close to that if everything goes right. So you might then mortgage your future. There is a lot of questions you're going to have asking in the future, whereas in the here and now, you've got a guy staring you in the face. He could potentially be great. Quote Matt, one of the best players in the NFL potentially if you get his needs, and he's in a situation where we can sit him. You're going to make this decision next year when you think, oh, there's a superstar quarterback out there, but he's going to take a lot of doing up, and we've got to put him straight in. There's too many unknowns for me. I take the guy who's there now. I'm not going to bet on Tennessee being bad next year, and I'm not going to bet that those two are going to be superstars and the class is going to be great.
The thing is, if you extend it out a bit further, it doesn't take me much to think that trading down is going to be the thing. Lost Oceans just said need to get Brett Whitefield in here. He'll definitely convince you that Richardson's the real deal. If you I know you've been watching the show. I know you know how much I like him. Carlton Wood did say, aren't the Titans meant to be trading Tannehill and Henry? Both are technically apparently on the block, but I just don't think either of them are going to be going.
36 million deals due. Tannehill's never going nowhere.
And Henry's on a 1-year deal. He'll be 30 years old and he's getting paid more than $10 million, and then someone has to sign him. I can see him getting dealt at the deadline to a contender for a 5th round pick, but it ain't happening yet. And actually, Tennessee could be okay, but we'll see. Ash, let's go for number 2.
Number 2. So, so, let's have a look which one. This one. Would you rather take Hendon Hooker at 18 to be our future QB2, or sign Teddy Bridgewater to a 1-year, $5 million fully guaranteed contract to be our QB2?
Teddy!
Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy. 18 is way too high for
What
him.
a waste of a first-round pick. Let's light
You
it on
do not-
fire.
You don't use a first round pick on a backup quarterback.
It'd be like any Tigers pitcher named Eduardo Rodriguez. He'll just toss it up and it'll be smacked out the park. And that's may as well what you do with that pick. You're just throwing it away.
Brandon's just talking about the rumour that the Lions want to move out of 18. The reason that we didn't mention that is the same reason that we haven't mentioned anything else. There's rumours the Lions want to trade up and down out of 6 and 18 and 45 and 48 and 55 and 81. Like, it's all rubbish. Every team is looking to trade up and down from every single spot. Like, it's not news, and it's not legitimate. Don't listen to all of these people creating clickbait content for... They're making money out of your clicks. You are the
Exactly.
product. The takes are the bait, and you are the product. Sorry, that sounds really harsh, but it's just it's all
true.
rubbish. Like, because it's all true. It's all true, but like, we know it already, so...
Exactly. Yeah. It's just rehashing the same things. On that vein, take a D tackle at 18, be it Kalijah Cansey, Brian Brise, Mazi Smith, or sign Ndamukong Suh to a $3.25 million 1-year contract.
Sue.
Can you repeat it for me? Sorry.
DT at 18, so that's either Cansey, Breezy, or Mazi Smith, or Suh at 3.25 mil.
I'm not wearing the jersey.
Ah, damn it.
Sue, because all 3 names are horrible.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'd rather go Keanu Benton get Keanu Benton in like round 2 than Mazi Smith at 18. Honestly, makes me want to spoon my own eyes out.
Brandon's just said thought Suh signed with the Browns. I just want to see that because I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that either.
Not gone nowhere, I don't think.
Ndamukong Suh is a free agent according to
Still,
Wikipedia,
yeah.
but that is not exactly reliable. The thing about Suh for me is that he loves the Lions, he still lives here, the culture is far more attuned with what he'd be looking for. We're actually contenders, it would be a cheap contract relative to his production, he'd be a rotational piece but probably would be the best DT we have, potentially. And he could mentor some of our young guys. Like, it's a perfect fit. Especially at 3.5 mil. Like, doesn't risk our future at that sort of price point. You don't even have to play him anything more than rotationally. Anyway.
Yeah, he's not on the ESPN's Browns roster, though they did sign like Dalvin Tomlinson. That's probably the one that we're thinking of. It's kind of similar. But as we know, yeah, I agree, Sue. That was the one that actually spawned the idea for me last week in the Discord. But considering your comments I can see how this one's going to go. Would you rather stay put or trade back into the first to 24 for either Darnell Washington or Kalijah Cansey, with Witherspoon being your pick at 6 and then Darnell Wright being your pick at 18?
Stay put.
Stay put.
Kalijah Cansey is never going to be good against the run, in my opinion. He will never be an every down defensive tackle. I just can't like him.
Nope.
See, I disagree with you, Ray. I disagree with you.
I'm spending too much time trying to look for comments and chatting with people that I'm not actually listening, which is really bad form. Can you give it to me one more time?
So it's knowing that, well, you pick Witherspoon at 6 and Darnell Wright at 18. Would you stay put and just stay where your picks are, or trade back up again to 24 for either of Darnell Washington or Kalijah Cansey?
I want Washington so bad, and Washington would make everything complete, but the capital to trade up to 24 for a player that I think is going to be there in the early 40s is too much. Washington will be there around pick 40. So I'm up for going up from 48 to 40 for a 5th round pick. That's fine. But I ain't giving up a third or a third and a future third or something like that to go up all that way. That's not worth it.
Fair enough. To end the first round discussion, Carter at 6, Banks at 18, or Witherspoon at 6, then Cansey at 18.
Carter. Carter Banks. Carter Banks is pretty much my non-trade, realistic, perfect draft.
Carter Banks by a long distance.
Oof. See, I would be tempted by Witherspoon and Cansey, because as we know, I do believe Cansey has the traits to be able to become a 3-down player. But just the value of Carter would even be too much for me, and I'm obviously the big Cansey stan.
I think the thing about Cansey is, after we look back at his career, if he said to me he made it work, I'm not going to be surprised. Like, the guy clearly has traits that could translate, but you're asking me to bet on the 20% chance, the 25% chance. Well, I'm going to take the 75% chance. That's where I live. Like, players the size of Cansey exist against the run 1 in 100 times. It happens, it exists, but it's such the thin end of the wedge that if he does, he's an outlier. I'm taking the field.
See? You say that, but remember, Cansey graded better against the run than Benton, who's supposed to be this great all-seeing nose tackle from what I've been hearing. He seems to be the saviour pick at DT if it's not Carter. That's what I've been hearing, and I'm like, I can see it. It's probably a safer pick, but to say that Cansey has like a minimal chance, which is what quite a lot of people are saying, is just completely off base for me. I wouldn't take him at 18 personally, but as I say, if he's there at 24, I'd be tempted because you've got to bet on that chance. If he hits, you've got your Red Oliver who went at 9 overall because it was just after Hawk. We picked Hawk. He's got that upside for me, and I'm swinging for that.
Israel Abanikanda and Trey Benson are probably the only 2 running backs in the Atlantic who could crack the top 7 or 8 in the Big Ten. You say, and I was thinking about this, the higher grade running backs, the running backs in the Atlantic are trash compared to what the Big Ten is. They really are. What? Abanikanda was the only guy who went over 1,000 yards. You've got a lot of first round picks and future big guys in the Big Ten. You've got to take that into account when you're looking at these run grades.
You say that, but I say there's a top 3 running back rotation in the Atlantic easily.
One team. I mean, you're talking about Mohamed Ibrahim. You're talking about Mohamed Ibrahim, who's had 4,000 rushing yards in his college career. You're talking about Nick Singleton, who's the best true freshman in college football. You're talking Blake Corum. You're talking studs all over in the Big Ten. Trust me, when it comes to run grades, the Big Ten is a lot more difficult than the Atlantic. A lot more.
I don't know where else I'll finish, but I want to get to One Pride 0427, who's subscribed at Tier 1 on Twitch for 3 months in advance. Appreciate you, One Pride 0427. Absolutely amazing stuff. Thank you. I don't give a shit about college production. Don't care. Like, okay, it's nice to see it on tape, but, and this is the thing about Brazil, where I can't rule this out. When you're looking at the NFL and you're looking at translatability, production is good, but what do NFL teams want to project all the time? Height, weight, speed. And you know what? Cansey's got the speed, he ain't got the height or the weight. And so when you come up against offensive linemen that are all 310 pounds and 6'5" and above, which I'm pretty sure wasn't the case at college, and he's got to go up against the best every single day, him and his weird jittery little kind of jig dance thing he does to get through people ain't going to be as effective. And then what's he going to do? Like, when you want translatability, production is great, but sometimes you want that prototypical build. And that's why if you're taking a risk at DT, and I can't believe this because what I said about Brazil earlier on in the year, I'd bank on Brazil more than I bank on Cansey. And because it's just because you're talking about someone who's potentially just as athletic at a much bigger height and weight. So Brazil's ceiling is higher for me than Cansey. If you want to take a swing, there's someone who has the prototypical build, who has flashed the production. Now, Cansey has got to the production, but does the production translate? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but
I think so because Cansey has that elite trait to hang his hat on, which is something that we're always asking, thinking about. Do you have something you can hang your hat on? Cansey has that first step. He had that for his first step. He looks like he teleports sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what makes me think he can work against a run because if he does, there's a reason he led the nation in TFLs this season. Because if he gets that first step, if he gets past that guard, there's no stopping him. He's bringing down the running back, the quarterback, whatever. So that's why I think I would bet on him over Breezy because he has that elite trait that he can hang his hat on for me. That I can guarantee, no matter what, he's got that. Breezy, yeah, he's a bit more prototypical than that, but he doesn't have that elite one thing that puts him above the rest for me. That's why I like Cansey a lot more. That's why on today's tweet, I put him as one of my guys, even though pretty much everyone else I listed is like day 2, day 3 guys. Because for me, I seem just to be a lot higher in him than the consensus, at least for Lions fans.
One Pride 0427 just says, my pleasure, usually catch you on YouTube, so now catch you on Twitch. Appreciate you, man.
Twitch is better.
Yeah. It's weird. Twitch is a bit more fun. YouTube is more mainstream and is going to do better for us in the long run. So it's hard to try and give an equal standing to both. But there we go. Right, Ash, let's move on from this conversation. Try and get off Cansey because we've been there for a while.
Yeah. Use both seconds to move back into the first, doesn't matter for who, or trade one of them for a 4th and a 7th.
Use them both to move up.
Agreed. We need top-end talent, not bench warmers.
Yeah, agreed.
We're ready to win now. I want a home run. I don't want a total flyer.
If we smash the draft, we're in Super Bowl conversation. And I say that unironically. But you know what? Someone said to me, and in fact there's someone who's absolutely lovely who's commented on a lot of our stuff recently, and I'll get her name in just a second. Lisa De Lorenzo. And if you're watching, Lisa, really appreciate you being so involved in all of the conversation and all the comments and stuff, because it's great to stimulate that stuff and get you thinking. So appreciate your comments. She was talking about really, really, really wanting to move down to accumulate capital. It's the way forward in this draft. At 18, I kind of buy the argument, because I think 18 and 31 are basically the same pick in terms of standard.
Yeah.
So it's a situational thing. But I think that the difference between 30 and 48 is massive. So I want to trade down from 18, but I want to trade up from basically everywhere else. Because our team is like the youngest in the league, or very close to it. We don't need lots of young talent. We need a small amount, or not a small amount, a lot, but hey, of premier talent, whether young or old. So, I mean, flip the picks for an extremely good vet if you can, but if you can't do that, trade up and get some elite talent at the top.
Yeah, and while we can all say that we have no idea what Brad's thinking, one of the few constants he does do, when there's an elite player there, he takes him. He doesn't trade down for picks and barter that player away. He takes the elite talent. Took Sewell, took Hutch, took all guys like this. Don't be stupid. If it's an elite player, take an elite player. Just build your core around that. The rest of the team, as you've figured out already, you can find in free agency. You can find it in undrafted free agency. You can find it on the trade market, wherever. Keep building your elite core. So if there's no one there at 18 who he feels is elite or worthy of that pick, he will shift it. But if there is, he won't. And that's the right thing to do.
All right.
On that vein, and it's probably going against what I've just said, would you take it if I can guarantee we walk out of day 2 having picked Henley, Benton, and then Jamie, or take the risk of me not being an absolute annoying little twat, and have none of them. So either you get your Henley, your Benton, and then you have me celebrating, or you take the risk of not having any of them.
Are you basically saying, do we want to have a purposely worse draft just to avoid you crowing all the time?
Yes.
Is that the deal?
Yep.
Oh, I'll take not having any of them.
I'll take it. We can just mute you.
One thing I have done for the draft, I want to see whether this works now, because I was just doing it with Ant before. Let's see whether that works. Oh, damn, it hasn't worked. Oh, there we go. Hey, so I've got hotkeys now where I can change from gallery view to speaker view at a touch of a button. It works, so we can feature people. Anyway, so I can easily get something where I just have mute Ash. That'll be fine.
I did tell you when we're discussing the channel point things that I'll probably be the one muted the most. So
potentially, it might happen. All right. Any more? Ash?
Edge in the top 81 or an inside linebacker?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because of the rattling in the background. Say again.
Edge in the top 81 or inside linebacker in the top 81?
Inside linebacker. Pretty easily.
Or what? Inside linebacker or what?
Edge.
Oh, I mean, what edges are even in that conversation?
So it's just
it says within the top 81, so anyone who's on your big board before pick 81, basically.
Okay, so edges within the top 81: Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Miles Murphy, Van Ness, Ojolari, McDonald, Anduike Uzoma, Adebaware, even though I really should list him as a DT, Derek Hall, Keon White, Tua Pelotu, Foskey, Young, Harrison. I'm going inside linebacker.
Probably linebacker, yeah.
Fair play.
I don't really like that group of linebackers we have.
Carlton Woods just said, can you mute Ash, but have him continue to talk and add fake subtitles? It will be great.
No, mate, I've got a Brummie accent. It's not that bad. Jeez.
I've got a Brummie accent.
That would not Brummie at all.
You know, I can't do it.
Yeah. Right.
Double
dip. that was more risk. That was more like Farmer. Double dip at defensive tackle, or double dip at O-line, so that covers guard and tackle.
O-line.
DT.
Ooh. So O-line for me as well. And in the final one, draft a kicker who is not named Jake Moody.
Yeah, that
one. Draft Robert Soldholm and lock down that long snapper position for the next 20 years.
Bugger off. I'm getting sick of this long snapper shit now.
You can go back to the Trey Flowers shit if you want.
Yeah.
I plead the fifth. I refuse to pick.
Yeah.
The Lions have forfeited the 189th selection or whatever it is. Derek's just said,
anyone not named Jake Moody is an acceptable thing for me.
Derek Bobarek has just said, no Moody even in the 7th. No Moody.
Thank you, Derek.
It was a question. He was like, why wouldn't you have Moody even in the 7th? And my answer is, we have a kicker who's better than Moody on the roster right now.
UDFA.
I'm gonna say something here, and all the Michigan fans are not going to agree with it, but if Jake Moody kicked for Northwestern, we wouldn't know who he was. Because there wouldn't be people shouting about him as like Cade York last year got a lot of chatter as a kicker. A lot of teams wanted to draft him. If he played for Northwestern, we wouldn't know who he was. Because this kicking class is garbage. Like absolutely garbage. So don't be doing that. That's why the Amber Alerts come on. It's just because they've seen him kick and they think he's amazing, but he's not. There are not other teams lining up going, oh, let's go and trade a 5th round pick for Jake Moody. There is not. There just isn't.
biggest stage at the combine, missed half his kicks, and you want to go to the NFL in super pressure. Like, he bottled it, and like, sorry, kickers, if they have a bad day in the NFL, get cut the next day. Like, sometimes kicking is really unfair, and Moody had a good season for Michigan. He did. I don't like his kicking action. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Michigan football. It's a weird, slow, scoopy sort of kick. Like, he doesn't have a huge amount of leg in with much consistency. Like, Lost Ocean just said it. I don't want to waste a pick on a kicker who is that bad at 50 plus yards. We already have a guy who can kick from 45 with the best in the league. So, yeah. Anyway, enough on Jake Moody. Enough breath is wasted on him already. Even if we draft him, we've already talked about him too much.
Yep.
Right, is that everything, Ash, from you?
Yeah.
All right.
That's my 10 would you rathers.
Folks, it's a draft conversation and we can take it any which way you want. So has anyone got anything they'd like to bring forward?
Yeah, this stuff about the Texans not knowing what they're doing at 2 is garbage. They're taking a quarterback. They know it. We know it. I admire the smokescreen they've put up trying to create competition to buy that pick. I think it's a tremendous job by them, but there's no way they're not taking a quarterback at 2. So we can stop that now. But fair play for trying, Houston. You nearly had us fooled.
Yeah, I don't buy them not knowing what they're doing. I don't know whether I buy Levis at 2.
Oh God, no.
I mean,
absolutely not. That is the biggest smokescreen of them all. That is people trying to, because I mean, it would not surprise me if that was the Cardinals. Because imagine Will Levis goes at 2. Who falls to 3? Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Oh my God, that number 3 pick suddenly goes up in value massively if Will Levis goes up in the top 2 there. And to be honest, I'm surprised the Cardinals haven't shifted 3 yet. With 6 teams trying to bid to buy that spot, I thought they might have shifted it by now, but maybe they're playing this dangerous game where they think if Houston do something stupid at number 2, they can cash in on draft night big time. But yeah, I do not buy that Will Levis stuff at all. That feels like a Cardinals fucking flair to drive up their value.
I don't see any trades now before the draft actually starting. I feel like if it had happened by now, it'd have happened.
I can see the Jets leveraging the situation now. So anyone who thought the Packers had the leverage are being proven wrong by the conduct of what's going on, because the closer it gets to the draft, the more worried the Packers will get that they won't have any 2023 draft compo for it. The time element is on the Jets side, especially because given that they have capital, they could trade up in the draft for a quarterback. Like, they're not completely stuffed if they don't draft one. If they don't get Rodgers before the draft, they can do whatever they want. And if they come out without a quarterback, maybe that hands back leverage to the Packers again. But the Packers will want capital now, and that's why they're starting to talk again. So I think that one could get done. But I think it's the only one that could get done. And if it gets done, it will be done at a discount in the Jets' favour, so the Packers get something back. Because they're going to be desperate.
Well, it's like that clip was saying earlier. If it's not done on Thursday night, then it'll be done Friday night, because they want a second round pick for him, don't they? So the second day 2's come and gone. The Packers have lost their leverage this year. There's nothing they can get for him this year, and they can't have him go back to the roster. They've told Jordan Love he's going to start. What are they going to do? Bring Rodgers back in and play him? Are they going to take the hit of that big ass contract, which I would love? I would love it if Aaron Rodgers was on that roster next year and they just benched him and sort of dealt with all the money they're paying him. But you know, they've got to do it before the end of day 2, well, before the start of day 2, because the picks will be gone soon enough. So I don't. I see a situation where it's not going to happen now. I mean, can you imagine for both of them? The Jets are like, well, you know, we fucked around with this too long, and Rodgers is like, well, you know, my new team don't want to stump up for me. You know, why should I go there and play well for them? It's going to end ugly. I don't think it's going to happen at all.
Do you think the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback? Do we think they need to? I think they have to.
I think they have to. I think they should. I think they are the favourites for Hooker, and I think they should be.
That's why I had him at 18, because I think his floor is the Vikings now.
And like him with Jefferson is one of the few things I think could make sense for Hooker. Like that's a matchup which I think is going to work because Jefferson's an elite route runner deep and Hooker can put it on him. So of the few places that Hooker can actually go, that, and if the Vikings can maybe get another burner on the outside, that may work. I don't think it will, but it could. Right, should we go through some of the questions that we got and that might inform some of our conversation? We've got a reasonable mailbag now. Yeah. We've got 2 questions relating to Jalen Carter, so I'm going to read them both. 3 questions about Jalen Carter. Let me highlight them so I don't miss out them. Give me a second. There's 1. There's 2. Where's the other one? Right. Here we go, folks. Apologies for the length of this. Michael Lucchese on Twitter asks, do you believe that Jalen Carter is on the draft board or not? Brandon Kerr asks, if Carter gets past Seattle, is that a red flag? And Rogue Blue, and by Rogue Blue, I'm not sure where your loyalties lie, but Rogue Blue asks, how would we feel if the Bears got Jalen Carter? So 3 Jalen Carter questions for you.
Well, let's do 1 each. I'll take the one. If he falls past the Seahawks, is that a red flag? No. Simply because in front of him will be 4 quarterbacks, if what we're led to believe, and then one of the top 3 defenders, whether it be him, Wilson, or Anderson. So not a red flag because no one will have deliberately passed up on him, I don't think, from what you need, because if it's the Cardinals who take a defensive player or it's the Seahawks, they need an edge player more than a DT. So that's not a red flag if he falls to us.
Is he on the Lions draft board? Yes. Otherwise, why bother bringing him in? And why bother? The words are very carefully. For Brad Holmes to say, we feel a little bit better about him, tells me he was on the board, but they had severe doubts that have been somewhat alleviated. They feel better about him potentially being there. And if he's there at 6, I think they pull the trigger. I feel like he might have won them over.
I agree.
I
agree.
Yeah, same. And then him at the Bears, it would be potentially terrifying, but I have faith in Ragnow and then Jonah and Vaitai and Glasgow Harris playing to at least be able to alleviate most of the threat from him. We're quite strong in interior still, so I think we can handle it. But I also do doubt that the Bears are going to take him if he's there. They are being heavily linked with the offensive linemen. So it'd be either Paris Johnson, Peter Skronsky, or there is some rumours, and I've heard them for the past couple of weeks, of Donnell Wright maybe even being the pick there at 9. So if he gets there, I honestly think they could pass, and it'll be the Eagles that get him. And if the Eagles get him, we could be screwed because they have the perfect situation to help sort out any red flags they have, because they have Jordan Davis to play next to him, who he used to play with at Georgia. And who do they have behind him? His former captain at Georgia, Nakobe Dean. They have the perfect situation to plant him in and sort out any character issues he might have.
And Jordan Davis.
Oh,
right
Jordan
next
Davis,
to him.
I said Jordan Davis and then I said Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bears getting him is like worst case scenario for the Lions generally in this draft. There's no player going to a place that I dislike more because the Packers are on the way down. The Rodgers situation will affect them for a couple of years. They'll come out of it eventually, but it might take until 2025 to kind of get semi-competitive and 26 to properly get there. Minnesota are only just starting their descent, and if they try and maintain some semblance of competitiveness, that will elongate how bad they are. They need to commit to a rebuild. The Bears are the only team ascending in the division, and getting a talent like Carter, I trust our O-line too. But you know what? Playing against better players that we've let fall into their lap ain't a habit I want to get into. Like, why make it harder for ourselves? Like, if we trust in our team, who cares who gets what? But, like, I'm actively rooting for the Bears to be worse than they can be. Because, duh.
But if they take him, they are condemning Justin Fields to die. I mean,
they did that last year.
They're not. Yeah, and look how much pressure we got on him. I know he did some runs and that, but towards the end of the season, we just absolutely nailed the hell out of him. if you're not going to take a tackle there, they've given up the Claypool pick, which would have been 32. That would have been good for them there, but they're going to be slipping all the way into the 40s and 50s now, and the level of offensive linemen they're going to get there is a lot less than Paris Johnson or Peter Skoronski or someone like that. And that team, they are only going to be a good team in the NFC North if Justin Fields can be allowed to play to his potential. And if they don't protect him, it doesn't matter how good the defense is. You've seen how good their defense has been the last few years, and it's won them squat. So taking Carter is a blessing, and passing on a tackle, we will eat Justin Fields alive, and it will not matter.
All right. Another one from Michael Lucci's. Asks, since we know football character, grit, and love of the game are vital to this regime, what players do you think are perfect fits? And coincidentally, we had a great article from Eric Schlitt from Pride of Detroit on this very subject today. So if you want a comprehensive breakdown on who he thinks would be perfect fits, that was really good to read. It had like 6 or 7 players at every single position group. So I heartily recommend that. But fellas, let's ignore Devon Witherspoon. We know about Devon Witherspoon. I feel like half of every bit of Lions content is he'd be great at 6. Who else might be really good for the Lions in this thought process? Anyone?
I'm just getting the name because it was someone I picked out. I'm not going to talk about the person you think I'm going to talk about. I'm actually going to go for someone different because I spoke about that person enough. For me, it's Zach Pickens from the South Carolina DTI profiled way back when we did the defensive tackles. He's on the reason I'm scrolling because I was checking he was on Eric's list, and he's one of the people that he found in his grit article that seemed to fit. And for me, he does. He'll be there in like round 3, round 4-ish, and he would be a very, very good pick for us. He former 5-star, just seemingly never managed to reach the heights with South Carolina that we're perhaps hoping from a 5-star, but he's good against the run, he's good against the pass. He's probably a tiny bit small for what you want for a DT, but he's got the arm length and that obviously people knock against Cansey. And for me, yeah, he's just the kind of gritty player you can sort of plug in into that defensive line rotation, and he'll just work and do what you ask of him.
For me, I really like Roshan Johnson. He has got the maturity to understand that he's been a 4-year backup behind one of the best backs in college football, yet he's still averaged like 5.2 yards a carry. He's like 6'2", 220. He's incredibly physical. He can cut north and south. He can break tackles. He's got such little mileage on the clock. He would have been a running back one probably anywhere else in the nation on a lot of teams, but he decided to stay there, help the team any way he could by not hitting the portal. And I think he's going to be potential one of the absolute steals of the draft. If you can pick him up on, like, say, late day 2, early day 3, he's a perfect long-term project for the Lions, especially behind a good physical run game, because he has got the durability to go in between the tackles. So I'd like to bring a guy like him into our running back room. Juice Staley would have absolutely loved the kid.
I think if you're looking for great, leadership is one, team captaincy, bits like that, then, there's a few linebackers you've got in there. I mean, Ventrell Miller's the big one. I mean, he's kind of prototype player that you would associate with us, leader of that Gators defense for many years now, hits as hard as a brick wall falling on you type thing. He's the kind of guy who embodies everything Detroit likes. I've not read Eric's article. I don't know if he's in there or not. Probably not, but someone like him would be. Aubrey Miller would be in the same conversation as well. A guy who's just completely in love with the game of football, who has overcome a very difficult path to get to where he has. He's got the grit, he's got the steel, got the determination. I think, some of these hard-hitting linebackers they fall in line with a lot of what we like here. And you probably say the same with a few of the tight ends as well, might be in that conversation, especially the later day 3 guys, the rugged, rough, tough blocking guys, maybe not the fancy playmakers at the top, but Ventrell Miller would be a big one. I would not be surprised if he was aligned by the end of this process.
My answer is someone I actually mentioned earlier on in the show as a very late round safety. Brandon Hill from Pittsburgh. He is what Witherspoon is to cornerbacks at safety. Fantastic instincts. Thumper. Like, goes out of his way to absolutely batter people. Really good instincts in pass coverage. Kind of just has a tendency to be in the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, doesn't have the ball production to back that up, but just looks good, looks fluid in drills. Really love watching him play. Is over-aggressive at times and needs to tone it down, but I actually like that about him. I just see him as being a kind of gritty guy, and given what happened with CJ Moore, there's an open spot in that regard. I think in the late rounds, he's going to complement that room. I actually want us to take a late round safety rather than someone at the top unless we get Branch, because we don't need a starter. We've got 3 of them already, but we need another body in that room who's got the potential upside to be a starter in year 3 of his career, and for me, that's Brandon Hill.
DeMarvion Overshawn as well. Like I say, they went to visit him. He's a super physical linebacker with a great frame. And he's good in coverage too. Like I say, I think he could be a leader. He's got a big imposing figure. Like I say, tackle sometimes a bit iffy, but it's not for the want of trying or getting stuck in. I see lots and lots of mocks of Overshawn to Lions because they did go to Texas Pro Day to look at him. So he's probably someone they've got a good eye on.
Other suggestions in here, I mean, Roschon Johnson and Aubrey Miller have been people suggested already, but we've also got Jake Kaner that was mentioned in Eric's article. I can see that absolutely. Someone likes my Brandon Hill. Someone's also said DJ Turner, who's a really interesting player because obviously he's got that 4.26 speed. You want a burner on the outside. Absolutely incredible. The only fear with him is the same as old Spindly Legs.
Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah, like, is he going to hang with a wide receiver at 230 pounds who can sprint past him? Thinking about one potential Seattle receiver in particular, but just anyone who's a bigger body on the outside. Can you match up with someone who's 60 pounds heavier than you in the NFL? It's hard. Like, Turner's playing weight is less than ideal. He's definitely a kneecap biter, though. I get that. Sorry.
See, you've also got sort of a load of those big-bodied outside receiving guys. You're talking about outside secondary guys, but like a receiver, there's a big bounty of them. It's like guys like Bryce Ford Wheaton. Like he's had a very tough road through college, and he's had just really the 1 year with West Virginia where he's really broken out. But he, again, fits the mold of kind of everything. Maybe not the leadership aspect on there, but not everyone we draft needs to be a leader. But those are the guys you'll probably be looking at as well, and probably one they might take, especially given we need some more receiver depth now, maybe later on. But like, yeah, Bryce Ford Wheaton would be a big one as well.
Savosia Dennis, I love him.
Savosia will be, yeah.
He's super physical. He mops up a lot.
Should we just draft the Pittsburgh defense?
The thing is, that's the thing.
The Pittsburgh defense, yes.
No, Matt. Well, you got to take the good with the bad there. So. But they're a team that kind of gets players in that way. You kind of have college teams who have players in that mold, and Pittsburgh defense always been nasty, gnarly, aggressive, hard hitting, that type. So you can see why people would suggest them.
Kayvon Merriweather, the Iowa safety too. I like him. He's a physical guy.
Hey, Riley would be.
Yeah,
he's listed. Riley's in on Eric's
very
article.
physical corner with ball skills.
He must have been listening. He must have been listening to
Porter is.
He must have been listening to Rye for that because Rye is the one man Riley Moss band and has been for years now. Literally, no one picked up on Riley Moss before Ryan did. So Eric's been listening.
No one picked up on the other guy before I did.
Right. We have a question from my namesake in the WhatsApp chat because there is another Matthew Turner in our WhatsApp chat who is not me. Somehow. And he asked a question.
The Arsenal goalkeeper watches us.
That I do have the most common name in Britain. I'm pretty sure of it. Which is really annoying. I knew at least
David
3
Jones.
in my school who had the same name as me.
I think it's still David Jones by about 1%.
You know
See,
what?
I know 5
you know what?
Matthew Turners and I know no David Joneses.
You know
I
what?
know a lot of David Joneses.
I think we should make a highlight reel move and rename Matt. We'd call him Matt Flowers.
Whee! Matt Daily Flowers.
Anyway, this Matthew Turner, who is not me, asks a slam dunk question. I'm going to hand over to Anthony Fitzpatrick to answer this one specifically.
Uh-oh.
Is Noah Sewell any good?
Oh God.
I mean, yes. I mean, don't forget, all these players who are coming through the draft are good players. You know, there are so few people who make it to a draft and who make it at the NFL level. They are all good. So if you're just asking the base question, yes, he is a good football player. Is he what we need? No. Is he right for this team? No, he is not. I mean, this coming from a guy who I said I would give away our second first round pick this year, a year ago for him. I would pencil in him, I would have him because he was showing all the signs of everything we wanted him to be. But he's just not progressed this year. There's just too much when it comes to the movement skills. There's just too much when it comes, the coverage is not great. There are other little just niggling problems with his game that I just don't like too much compared to some of these other, versatile linebackers on the inside there. So is he a good player? Yes. Is he a good player for the Detroit Lions? No. Just my opinion. Just don't be doing the whole Penny thing. Not everyone comes in and plays like Penny. Penny was a 7th overall pick for a reason, because those guys come up and they are elite all pros. That's the level you're drafting at. He's not at that level.
All right. Next question, while I show off my 2 caps I have on display, is we got several from Xylo, who on Twitter and on Twitch is Cool Down Rat. First question of his, and I'll try and chop and change his questions in and out. Are there any players that we think are not on the Lions board based on fit, rumour, innuendo, age, etc.? We've already addressed Carter. We all think he's on the board, at least somewhat. Are there any other players that we think might be off the board?
Any first round receiver, I reckon, is off the board.
Yeah.
I don't think go down that line of trying to replace short-term production. Marvin Jones Jr. was signed because they reckon, I think they knew a suspension was coming. It just makes sense. So they're not going to invest in a first-round receiver this year.
Would they not like? I'd be with Ryan. The receivers, I don't think, especially JSN, I don't think he fits their culture requirements at all, work ethic requirements. I don't think he fits that one bit. So he'd be the one I'd say instantly.
There's one I can think of, but I don't think you guys will agree. It's Stetson Bennett because of the whole getting drunk and skipping on the All-Star games. I think that would turn off Brad and Dan and everyone, because it's not what they'd look for someone who's been to national championships and that, and has shown the desire there to win a job and consistently fight off. For him then to sort of slack it off, go get drunk with his friends and get arrested, they won't like that at all.
I think you'll find the top tight ends won't be on there either. I don't think the likes of Dalton Kincaid and that will be on, simply because, they are more receiving tight ends, and we don't. For now, they are. No tight end is coming through this draft with elite blocking skills. No tight end is coming up with elite blocking skills, but these guys, for the time being, have just not been asked to do it. And when it's not on tape and when you've not seen what they can do up close and personal, I think it will just notch them down a little bit. It's the unknown factor that would notch them down.
I think the one guy out of the top 4 tight ends on the consensus board who might be on there, who isn't Darnell Washington, we know he's on there, is Luke Musgrave. I think Mayer will be on there as well because he's a more than adequate blocker, but I think Mayer will go too high. I think Musgrave will be in that fun zone where we might at 48, if he's still there, which I think is likely at this point. He is the better blocker of those three that are deemed to be a bit more of a pass-catching tight end. But I just don't think he's going to be as good as Hawkinson was, and we binned him off. One, because we didn't want to pay him. Two, because he was a poor blocker in the NFL. But, I mean, we've seen mocks where Michael Mayer falls out the first round. There are ones where that happens, and like if he's available in the early 30s post first round, are we saying we're definitely not trading up for him? I don't know. Like, he could potentially have a ceiling that's higher than Hawkinson was. I'm not saying he's definitely going to be, because people are calling him Hawkinson 2.0, but you know what? Someone blocking like that in college didn't translate into the NFL doesn't mean no one will who's like that. Like, can't tar everyone with the same brush, just got hope. But, yeah.
I think, hot take, the only tight end they'd even consider trading up for would be Laporta. That's just my thing there. I think Laporta would be... He's not TJ Iowa tight end. He's completely different, so don't look at the college and the position, but I think as a hot take, they would trade up for him. Not much, but if he was there and they're like, oh, this does represent pretty good value, actually, I think they'd do it. I don't think they'd do it for many of the others, unless one of them fell like really far, unless like Dalton Kincaid's there in the 70s or something like that, then they might. But if they all go where you think they're going to, I think it would just be Laporta and him only.
Court Martin asks, Witherspoon or Wilson?
Witherspoon.
Witherspoon.
Probably Witherspoon. I think they'd go Wilson.
It would be interesting to see which way they go on that one, because I think the same as you, Ryan. Perry Ball asks what's on every Lions fan's mind at the moment, but I think is fairly easily answered, and we've kind of discussed it already. Perry Ball asks, how does JMO missing 6 games impact the draft?
It doesn't whatsoever.
Not at all.
Yeah. We already addressed it. We already got Marvin Jones in. At the Zeds receiver, we have Josh Reynolds, we have Marvin Jones, and we have Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond deserves to be a starter somewhere from how he did last year. Josh Reynolds is a very accomplished receiver who can really add something to Goff's game. I'm not going to say the chemistry makes him really good, but like, there's something there clearly. And we signed a guy to already replace JMO for half the season, who's going to be a veteran leader in there. We need an X, but we needed an X before, so no different. Dan Pask asks, what percentage would you give the Texans picking a quarterback at 2?
99.999.
75.
Yeah, I'm about with Ash. 80, 75.
93 or something. It's CJ Stroud or it's Will Anderson.
I'm going to ignore someone called Stephen Collins in the comments because he's not here. So
If you can be in the comments.
Did he say kicker?
No, he's talking about tight ends, so I'm ignoring him.
Yes.
Tell him to get his lazy ass on camera.
He's on holiday in Yorkshire.
I mean, to be fair, that would be like going to a year 3000 metropolis from someone from Scotland. So,
all right. So Perry, I'll go back to another one of Cool Down Rats questions.
Why is he in Yorkshire anyhow? Why did he not tell us he's coming in? Me and Ryan are both nearby.
I don't know.
Where is it?
You got to bring us up.
I am offended, Steve.
Tell me where he is.
Yeah, where are you?
Is it? I bet he's in North Yorkshire. He's on Seaside, isn't he?
Oh, of course he'll be in North Yorkshire. He's coming down from Edinburgh. Like, he's not going to go too far. Prison Mike says, free Steve. Right.
Don't let him go back over the border.
Perry Ball asks, do you feel JMO is on thin ice with the Lions front office?
No.
I think he's on thinner ice than he was, but not on thin ice. I think it was pretty thick to begin with.
That's the question. There's on thin ice. No, it's you know, the goodwill's probably gone. It's probably right now. It's 100% you showing us, but no, on thin ice. It's year 2.
For me, I said it on Discord, he's heading towards that sort of 2 strikes. If he comes back and I don't know, next off season, he does something dumb again. Don't know what. I'm not saying he's going to gamble again. Hopefully, he learns his lesson there. But he just does something that brings more bad reps to the team, and just he shows the immaturity is still there, and he's not growing outside of football, and it just makes the team look bad. I could see Brad and Dan turn around saying, "We love you as a football player, but you it's just not a right fit for you. You need to go somewhere where you can hopefully do a bit of growing." I can see it heading towards that way. I'm not saying I'd personally do it, but if it happens, I wouldn't be shocked.
I think that's fair. Right, going back to one of Cooldown Rat's questions, he asks, what clues had Brad Holmes given and do we believe them all, i.e. strength in the quarterback room, not drafting edge early, could draft a running back early? He's throwing out little tidbits in his interviews where he goes, well, drafting running back high didn't hurt the Rams, and we're going to do something about this quarterback room at backup, or not necessarily backup. He didn't say it backup. He just said the quarterback room, or no, we're set at edge. Like, are you buying anything that he's saying right now?
Quarterback, yes. I expect us to at least look at a quarterback sometime in this draft, whether it's early with one of the big guys or later on with like a Jaron Horde, Aiden Connell, that kind of range. Running back, I can see it being a smokescreen to scare some teams that if Bijan falls to 18, we could take him. I can see that being the intention. And then with Edge, I do also believe at Edge, if we weren't so set at Edge, we would have just cut one of Harris or Aquara. We wouldn't have let them take the pay cuts and try and fight for their spot. We would have just got rid of them and then looked at a Miles Murphy or something at 18.
What was the question?
I'd say there's no chance of a running back high. If Bijan's there at 18, I think they'll pass on him in a heartbeat. They're not interested. I don't think they'd even take Jahmyr Gibbs at the first and start the second. I think we're firmly in day 2, day 3 territory for a running back. If they were that desperate, I think Swift would have been dealt by now, if I'm perfectly honest. If they were that in need for a running back, but they're obviously pretty settled. Quarterback, they're definitely drafting one. They're rumoured to have made Teddy Bridgewater a strong offer, but no one signed it, have they? They haven't signed him, so they've left the door open. If they get their quarterback they want, I can see them pulling the rug from under Teddy's feet and we go like, do you know what? Nah, second thoughts. We're not that interested in you now. So they've definitely pulled that out there. Edge room, no, we'll bring in an edge. Yeah, like I say, we've given these guys, like I say, we've asked them to take pay cuts. Will they be around here next year? Somewhat unlikely. Charles and Romeo both being here next year is probably no chance. So he's giving them both like a chance to prove their worth, but they will bring in a guy there.
Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, what clues had for the clues that Brad Holmes has given us, do we believe them at all? I.e., he's talked about strengthening the quarterback room. He's talked about not drafting edge early. He's talked about the possibility of drafting a running back high with reference to the Rams doing it and it worked out fine and no one complained about it at the time.
I would think. I mean, he's never really given that much information before in previous years. It's kind of been very stum with it. So I don't know. I just think he'll take the best players that are there that kind of fit what he wants. And, a draft board may fall to him in 50 different ways and he doesn't know. So I could see running back being a thing. I mean, if Montgomery goes down, then we're kind of thin at the position. I know Swift's in there, but we can't rely on him to be a long-term fixture for us. So I could, and we're a running team, don't forget. We want to base our attack on our running game. So you've got to put resources into it. Even with Monty here, the perfect system is, well, maybe have two great running backs on rookie contracts. But outside of that, have an established running back, pay him decent money, and have a great running back on a rookie contract. That's the best situation you could be in. We're still missing one of those, which is a draft running back. So Would not surprise me if they went high with it. Quarterback, they're definitely going to draft one. It just depends when and where. It could be anywhere from day 1 to day 3, but they will get one. Edge, I don't know. I feel like we are more set at the edge. Because don't forget, this year, we want Pascal and Houston and Hutch to all get serious reps this year. Now, I know you need backup and depth, but that's why Romeo and Charles are here. But I want my 3 developmental young pieces who are going to be the cornerstones of this franchise long term to get serious starter reps. So I'm not really going to bring a 4th guy into the equation when I've already got veteran depth here to help me. Now, again, if the board falls and someone falls stupidly low, then fine. But outside of that, just get yourself some more rotational guys. Get yourself some more depth guys, because you've got your 3 main pieces moving forward. We've got other places to fix this year.
So we don't have a great running back and a rookie contract. You're finally giving up on Jamal Jefferson then, Ant.
Well, he's not a great running back yet. But, you know, even the biggest Jamal fan in the world has to admit that it's tough. So, no. We do need a bona fide one. And if Jahmyr Gibbs is there at the right pick, if Bijan's there at the right pick, you take him. Because like I said, our running game is what defines us, and you've got to invest in it. Monty is not enough.
All right. Let's get on to the next one. And Brent asks, how does Gibbs compare to Bijan?
Much better receiver. That's not knocking Bijan's receiving ability. That's showing how great Jahmyr's receiving ability is. He is better than some wide receivers in this draft with his catching ability. That is why, if you believe the thing that some people have Jahmyr higher on the board than Bijan, that can technically be true, because that will be teams who really value dual threat running backs and use them a lot in the passing game. They will value Jahmyr more. As a runner, he's damn good, but Bijan's just completely elite at it, and his streets above. But compared side to side, he's probably about 75% the runner Bijan is, but 150% the receiver he is. I think that's a fair comparison.
Pass blocking as well, I trust Gibbs far more than I trust Bijan Robinson. I don't think Bijan Robinson's going to want to get anywhere near blocking and put himself in harm's way. I think sometimes he will actively back out of it. That's the knock I have on him. I don't trust him in that sense. I feel like Gibbs is more willing to put his body on the line and help the team, whereas Bijan will do whatever it takes to keep himself healthy and protected.
That's not what I saw from Bijan on tape personally. What I saw that I didn't like in pass blocking from him is that sometimes if you had 2 rushers, he'd pick the wrong guy. Like, he might misread it sometimes. That's more what I saw from him. I saw him putting his body on the line several times. I don't... Maybe consistent, because I haven't watched every game of his. Maybe consistently that's not true, but I have no question that Gibbs is better in that respect. So I think they are closer than people think, but I still think Bijan is clearly better.
As a running back, absolutely. As a pure and let's face it, you're not drafting Bijan to pass block. You're drafting him to give him the ball on first and second downs and go cause havoc. And then you're going to bring in a pass blocker for third down. So I think it's kind of a redundant part of it. You were really not drafting him for that.
If Jahmyr Gibbs had not spent his time at Georgia Tech and had spent his time at a better school earlier in his career, I think we'd be having a different conversation about potentially a better back going further. He was held back because they blow, and like I say, they were running a rhino triple option, like heavy run offense, and they did not maximize him in the passing game because they didn't have the quarterback behind him. They're running like Jeff Sims as like his quarterback, who was like an identical guy to Jahmyr Gibbs. He was never going to trust him to throw the ball. So the scheme he was in held him back until he just had enough. I think he should have probably jumped ship a bit sooner.
Mark on our WhatsApp chat says, an NFL program says we've just inquired with San Francisco about trading for Trey Lance. Thoughts on bringing him in?
If the price is right, I mean, he's had a few years in the league. I know he's been injured, but if you were to give away, I mean, it'd probably pick 81 is not enough, but theoretically, if you were, you're going to get someone better than him there? No, probably not. And he still needs time to sit, and he's not ready to start yet. So you can just sit and develop him. If it doesn't cost too much, then fine. If they want a first round pick, then no, they can jog on.
I think the highest I'll go is like 51. 51, do I take Tanner McKee or do I trade for Trey Lance? I think I take Lance and I just try see what's left on that end of his rookie deal if we can mold him when he's healthy. But I agree, I can't go no higher. I genuinely don't think they've got much leverage either. I really don't think they're going to get a first for him.
No, they won't. All right. Last one of Cool Down Rat's questions. He said, are there any clues based on previous Holmes drafts what his strategies are, what he might do, i.e. not averse to moving up, drafting BPA by position need, likes value on later rounds, etc. I will say with this question, it's particularly difficult to answer. I think every GM likes value in later rounds. I don't think that is offering any particular insight. I think that they are better at identifying talent in the later rounds, but that is not about liking value or not. It's just about having a better process than other people. I think that he has a very defined way of things, the way he does things, and it differs by position group, which is why it's harder for people to nail down. At safety, athleticism doesn't matter to him at all. He cares about football IQ, he cares about people reading and reacting to situations more quickly than the next best guy. That's what's important there, which is why this crop of safeties doesn't worry me at all. This is the crop of safeties that Brad Holmes will love. But you have a look at edge, you have a look at quarterback, you have a look at other people like that, I think athleticism is going to be very high on the agenda because there's some positions that are just so instant that breakaway speed, the ability to be special in that position, the athleticism is the trait that is almost most important. So to each position its own for Brad, for me. What about you guys?
For me personally, what I think difference is this year is like we've gone through a transition of like known for scouting but not known for being a GM 2 years now. Now we're coming to year three, and Brad now has got one, more respect. Two, I think he's got a better contact book. Do you know the trades with Quasi? We've also just traded with Terry Fonta not to send Jeff Okuda. I think we're going to see in this draft minimum 3 trades. He will go up and down at least 3 times minimum because now teams and other teams know that Brad is very, one, easy to work with. He's a straightforward, straight shooter. 2, very negotiable. He's happy to negotiate if he thinks he's going to get a good deal. So his line is always open. Whereas some GMs are hard to work with, like New England, guys like that can be a bit frosty. Brad is very much more receptive to moving up and down. So I think right now he's got a lot of capital, but he's also got a really good relationship with the other GMs going into year 3 that he probably didn't have a year and a half ago. So I think we're going to be big time players this year.
Yeah, and you've got to take the team situation into this draft as well. Don't forget, these first 2 drafts he's had, it's kind of, we've been barren of talent. We've been in a situation where we're not ready to compete. So he's been quite happy to, have more picks. He's done some trading for later day picks, stuff like that, etc., to get extras there. But this year, we're coming into a draft where, they're on the attack at the minute. The way they've taken free agency, they have seen a window for the NFC North open up. And I think this is maybe the year where I agree with Ryan. I think I said it myself. I think you're going to see very aggressive trades. They've 2 5ths and 2 6ths now. I think we'll see a 4th out of some of them. I think we might trade up for them. I think you might see trade ups with the seconds or at least the 3rd being used as leverage, because this is the year where a serious talent injection, a smaller talent injection, but a big one, lots of good, less players, but more talented ones. You put them in this team, and like Matt says, their potential this season is limitless as to where they can go. And we've not been in this situation in the previous 2 years. So maybe some of those times he's been talked out of trading up for players and that it made sense in the first 2 years. Like, don't give stuff away. You're not close. This year, I think he might start going with his gut a bit more and start doing some of these trade-ups and that. So I expect to see him be a bit more aggressive than previous years just because of where the team's at.
I think he was aggressive in previous years anyway. So last year, obviously, we had the big one for JMO. The year before, we traded up
Derek Barnes.
for Derek Barnes, a sixth and a future fourth to get Cleveland's fourth that year to take Derek Barnes. He's always been aggressive when he thinks he can get the value, but this year is the perfect year for him to do it. As you said, we don't need to use all 9 picks. We don't need 9 new players. If we can pick 5 really good players who can come in and have defined roles in this team and contribute, I'd be happy with that. I know there's supposed to be the adage that you get 3 starters, 3 backups, and 3 special teamers in a draft. That's a good draft. We don't need that this year. That was the past 2 years. This year, we've got the roster talent pretty much there. We just need a few more pieces in places, like a guard for the next couple for the future, like a defensive tackle, just to contribute in the rotation. Perhaps a new safety who we can trust in the 2 shell and can maybe do stuff on special teams that CJ Moore can do. That's what we need. So I can see Brad. Yeah, you either trading down from 6 if the value's not there for him. Let's say, I don't know, Levis is the one that is the top prospect on the board and he doesn't like it and he gets a call from Las Vegas or something doing that. But then, yeah, make it going up, using the 2 seconds maybe to come back in the first and getting a guy, or using the second and the third to go up a bit higher in the second. All that, yeah, just talent over, it's quality over quantity now. When the past couple of seasons, it maybe has been quantity.
And who's seen a better example of that than Dan Campbell? Who forgets that Saints class of 2017? What was that?
Yeah, true.
Seven picks, I think they had in that class. I mean, you've got Trey Hendrickson, Ramczyk, Lattimore. You had an all-time draft class there, and you only had 7 picks because they identified specific players. It's not about having 20 picks and going crazy with them. It's about getting the right guys. And I'm not saying you don't get those draft classes every year, but if you even get a semblance of that draft class this year with, say, 7 picks or even 6, imagine that talent injection into this young team. That all of a sudden turns it into an NFC contender for absolute damn sure. So Dan will know better than anybody that it's specific players, not lots of players. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That I've got that Saints class up now. So you've got Marshall Lattimore at 11, defensive rookie of the year. At 32, Ryan Ramczyk, who is one of the best right tackles in the league and arguably one of the best overall tackles in the league. At 42, Marcus Williams. 67, Alvin Kamara, offensive rookie of the year, and he's one of the best running backs. So he's probably, well, obviously the whole Vegas situation doesn't help him. 76, our current starting Mike linebacker, Alexander Lone. 103, Trey Hendrickson, who obviously played well for him in the end last year of his rookie contract, now got a big contract from the Bengals. And then 196, it's Mohammed, who is now with the Bears, and he's a contributor. He's a starter. So getting 7 starters in a draft class, that's really good. That is a top overall class. And the thing is, the past couple of classes have been there. Obviously, places have valued other ones, so they've put like the Seahawks one over it, they put the Jets one over it for the last couple of years. We have already done great drafting. Now's the time to sort of do that premier class.
Hate to burst your bubble on Al Qadim Mohammed, but he was released by the Bears in the off-season.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. We move on.
Even take that out of the equation. It is a small draft class is sometimes much better. And if you come out with those players, this team becomes an NFC favorite, not just an NFC North favorite. So that is what I feel Brad will do this year. Because Dan will be in his ear saying, look what we did in 1 year, what you can do in 1 year.
Just to say, if you haven't seen my message in the chats, but I'm going to stop taking questions because we got enough for another week. So I'm just going to go through as many as I can now, and we'll see how fed up these guys get at being on stream. Ryan, I got a question for you. Perry Ball asks, do you think a team will reach badly for a player in round 1? Do you think 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks?
Yes, I think multiple players will be reached for terribly. I think Hendon Hooker will definitely be one. I think guys like Mazimif. I feel like someone like Kelly Ringo would be a horrible reach that I could see at the end of the first. Like guys like that. First 4 picks being quarterbacks, no. Either Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson Jr. will break up that patch. I think it's pretty much given. I think the first 3 quarterbacks off the board will be Bryce, Stroud, and Levis. And then where Richardson goes, I truly have no idea right now. But yeah, there'll be a lot of reaches, unfortunately.
All right. Brent DeWitt asks, Mike reported that Brad is looking into trading back from 18, which we briefly discussed. I wonder who he could be targeting later in the first or in the early second round if we did trade down. So who are we not looking at the moment in the early 30s, late 20s?
Probably offensive lineman. Nevada, Steve Avila, guys like that.
I think Osiris Torrance will be in that range.
Bergeron.
Yeah, you're talking sort of the next breed of tackles there, and I mean the other, the DeJuan Jones, someone like that. I mean, if you are going to move Penny in a year or two, then DeJuan would be the one you'd probably pick. Because I mean, like I said, he's a guy who you run behind, and that's what we base on. So I think running back may be in the frame there. I think it depends if the corners like don't fall as quick as we think they do, and he thinks there's going to be value there and go back. I just don't think. I'm not sure it's a trade of. I'm not sure it's for me that it's a thing about him having his eye on someone later. I just don't think he sees value at 18, so that crushes with his clashes with his core value of not picking for value. I think he'll just try and get out of there and see what the board falls to him wherever he's at.
Aaron Rodgers has been traded.
It's been traded. It's Aaron Rodgers pick. So Jets get Aaron Rodgers pick 15 and a 2023 fifth rounder, so 170. Packers get pick 13, a 2023 second round pick, so 42, a sixth rounder 207, a conditional 24th second round pick that becomes a first if Rodgers plays more than 65% of the plays.
Oh, so
wait, the Green Bay have given up their first round pick as well.
No, but no. So Green Bay have moved up in the first round by a couple of spots. They then get basically a first round pick in 2024, and they move up from the 5th to the 3rd in this year's draft. So they get a first round pick next year, and they move up in the first round this year a couple of spots, and from the 5th to the 3rd this year. I think that is more than I thought they'd get.
That's pretty good, though.
Yeah, I've put the Schefter tweet in the
Discord. I did not think they'd get it first. I just genuinely didn't think that was going to happen.
God damn it.
Right, we're going to have to do our first round mocks again.
Yeah, that does reset the board at 13 or 14, isn't it, for the Jets?
Oh, yeah. Fuck, they're not going to take a tight end at 13, are they?
Well, they could. Oh, it was 13, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Right, let's move on to the next one.
Oh, God.
Perry Ball asks, should the Lions take a wide receiver like Jackson Smith and Jigba or wait for someone like Bryce Ford Wheaton?
I would take Bryce Ford Wheaton over Jackson Smith and Jigba every day of the week, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. Is my response to that.
6 is just far too high. 18, you won't be there, but for a guy that's going to start primarily out of the slot, and that just don't work for us. Like I say, we've got Amon-Ra. Like, we don't need a guy. We don't have to force a guy outside that's not ready. And for me, I just don't see the physicality in JSN to dominate on the outside at the next level. So I'll take Xavier Hutchinson or someone before I take a JSN.
Made out of paper mache.
Yeah. See, I know Matt. I agree with Matt that JSN is the best receiver in this class, but for the Lions, he isn't the best receiver for us. I'd wait. I'd get Bryce Ward Wheaton, Xavier Hutchinson, Cedric Tillman, Puka Nacua, Andre Oshavas, one of those guys, because it just fits our team more. That's the kind of player we need. JSN would just be another Amon-Ra. Well, that might be good. We have 2 elite weapons over the middle. We still need that guy on the outside that's the 50-50 effort we need a game winner type player, because I don't think we have that. We have Marvin Jones, who can maybe do it, Josh Reynolds maybe, but someone that's just there as a proven guy.
Oh, I'm so annoyed about that trade. How did they get a first-round pick in 2024 when the quarterbacks might be so good? If the Packers suck next year, or if the Jets suck next year, man, that's going to be bad for us. Anyway, Jackson Smith and Jigba will be an elite outside wide receiver in the NFL. I believe it wholeheartedly. I agree with Ryan that there is some growth to be had in terms of his play strength on the outside. And I think actually the guy needs reps. Like, he's had one season in college for all intents and purposes. But he was... I heard Ryan and Ant say at the time, and I've taken it with me all the way down to here, he looked better than Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave that year, who both went in the first round, and one of them happened to be the Rookie of the Year. Yeah, he was in the slot, but that's because they wanted them on the outside, not because JSN couldn't do it. It just fit their offense more. In fact, I thought Ohio State was one of those teams that actually likes to feature their best wide receiver in the slot. I might be completely wrong about that, but if you have a look at JSN's route running ability, his route running ability is so good that the physicality on the outside doesn't matter hugely. If he can improve in that, then that would be great. But if you have a look at someone like Devontae Adams, who's obviously his play strength is fantastic, but one of the things that makes him the best receiver in the league is that he does it on the outside with elite route running, with that speed, and he's got the whole package. JSN is not going to be Devontae Adams because he's not quite as fast. I think the strength can get there, but the route running makes him so good. I wouldn't be playing him in the slot. I think that would be wasting JSN. So I don't even think there's any crossover there. I think that other people will see crossover there, and I see why, but I wouldn't even think about it.
NFL DBs are going to take one look at Brandon Joseph's hit on JSN and go, I'm going to eat this guy alive. They are. He got broken like a twig by a guy who was not known for it. So I know me and Ryan said that, but also people said that Spencer Rattler was a first overall draft pick once upon a time. Things change. He's changed. He's shown a new attitude that we didn't know about before. He's shown a propensity to injury that we've not seen before. And while the traits are good, maybe elite, they maybe are, they're not what they were there. And, you know, I give him a fair chance. I said Garrett Wilson was best receiver in the draft before last. And, you know, I give Ohio State wide receivers the fair dues. Him, no, he's no, not for us at all.
Brandon Kerr asks, ROTL, where do you stand on getting a linebacker for the second or third day?
Like, fully, as
going to happen.
100%, like, agreed with him. Day two.
Yep.
Day two is one. Yeah, you've got our vote. We're as all in as we can be.
I know.
I don't
It's
care if
seeming
we have
more
to
and
trade
more.
back
It's going
into
to
the
be
first
someone I don't
round.
like.
I want the best linebacker available. I don't care if it takes 31.
Brent DeWitt asks, with two of our cornerbacks on one-year deals, do you think we double dip at the position in the draft?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I've been advocating it for ages. Even if we get Devin Witherspoon at 6, and it's going to be, I know it's the guy I'm going to bring up again, but it's because it's just such a good fit, I think, for scheme and need and that. I can see us coming back around and getting a Garrett Williams or Corey Trice or someone later who can develop. So Williams is coming off the ACL, so he'll need to sit anyway, but we'll just get more options because, as you say, it's a long-term need and you draft for the long term.
I'm going to go against the grain and say no. I think one is a must, but I do think that there is depth required for 2024 at plenty of positions. And while I wouldn't be surprised to see them double dip, it also wouldn't shock me if they didn't. We have a limited number of edge players going into 2024. We need one there. We do need a backup quarterback. We've talked about that before, so we could easily draft one of those. We need a backup guard with starter potential. Well, that's 3 people without double dipping at cornerback and without going high in the draft. It doesn't take you very long to fill all the picks that we have, but you've also got 2024 as well. So wouldn't be surprised for me to see us go at 6 for corner this year and then first round next year as well. Like, that wouldn't shock me at all, and I think that might be a better option, to be honest. But Garrett Williams would be fun. I would like that very much. And he'll be able to play day one from by the look of it. So I'm on board the Garrett Williams train. Anyway, Big Airy says, big hypothetical question. This is a bit more of a fun, fluffy question for you guys. If you had to make up a football team that consisted of only one player to play all 22 positions on the field, who are you picking?
There a player in the NFL who basically does that already.
Probably pick DK Metcalf because you've still got brains, but you've also got the frame, the build, the athleticism, and arrogance as well. He's got a swagger that you need for some positions. So I'd say he's probably like prototypical.
I don't. Are we saying a player who could do the most things? If I'd be doing that, I'd pick Marcus Jones. He's a all-star returner, receiver, cornerback. He's kind of a wide-ranging thing for him. I think he slung a few balls for Houston as well, so I'm pretty sure he can pass it. So I'd pick Marcus Jones.
Mike the Marine is on my wavelength. You won't be surprised to hear my answer is Anthony fucking Richardson.
I was going to say that because he's got like elite Raz everywhere.
He's big enough to play all the positions. He's fast enough to get free against most people in coverage, and he's got a good enough arm to get the ball to himself. And he's going to be good enough in coverage to cover most people because he's fast and he's got the right build. So,
true. To give another name, and it's going to sound stupid, but there is reasoning. Chaz Surratt, former quarterback, played some wide receiver in college, and then converted to linebacker. So that's 3 of the positions already. But he's also got the body to then play like running back, obviously, play a bit of safety, and etc. etc. He's one of those, but it's someone that I definitely know can pass the ball, and isn't Anthony Richardson because that's the obvious answer. So I'm just going for like a little contrarian one.
right. Joseph Austin asks, will the Lions trade back if they can't get Anderson?
No, because there'll probably be other players on the board like Witherspoon, Wilson, Carter, and Richardson, who would probably still take anyway.
So again, if there's a talented enough player there, they'll take him. Brad Holmes doesn't trade away talented players. Let other teams do that. All you need to build, you don't need to build your entire roster through the draft. You need to build your core through the draft, and then you can build around it. So just keep taking highly talented players as high in the draft as you can get and providing they're worth it. Witherspoon's there at 6, take him. He's an elite player, and he fits a position of need as well. So don't just go trade him away.
If Anderson's the only player you want at 6, then you just trade up. You don't wait, do you?
No.
You just ring the Seahawks or you ring Cardinals and just say, I want to come up because there's only one player I want.
Speaking of the Seahawks, I'm finally glad that there's traction going around that they might take a quarterback. You know, it was always on the table. I can't believe no one was saying it, but vindicated.
Anyway, that's Brooklyn Nine-Nine for you.
Yep.
Dan Pask asks, how did Trayvon Walker do last year for you guys? What do you think about Trayvon Walker? Is going after Tyree, considered this year's Walker, a good idea?
No.
He was fine.
I think Trayvon Walker outperformed my expectations for him, but my expectations for him were a lot lower than a traditional first-round picks. He was a project first-round pick, but I think most people would consider it disappointing production for a first-round pick. But you look at what he did last year, and I have hope that he'll turn out very well. But I don't.
Trayvon Walker. If you put Trayvon Walker in our defense, would he done better? Probably, because I think he's been surrounded by a bit more talent. He was on a pretty barren defensive line. He didn't exactly have much help. Like when you look at what they've done in previous drafts, like they've really not strengthened all that much of the Jags. So I feel like he did as well as he could. I feel like he'll make a huge jump this year.
See, in the traits versus talent debate, I just feel like when you're drafting so high, there's got to be a level of talent there, regardless of the traits. You've seen in the last 2 drafts, the 2 big reaches on traits in the last 2 drafts. One's a quarterback who his team's trying to ship. The other is Walker, who looked decidedly average last season. That's what you get when you draft traits so high and you don't really draft a talent wall with it. I mean, there's the potential there for them to be very talented, but that's the risk you face. There's got to be a level of talent at that point. So Tyree to me is just another guy who could be sensational. Could be, but the underlying level of talent is not there to warrant such a high pick.
Tyree Wilson is this year's Jason Owe. The production was not there. The freak talent, athleticism was there, and it gambled on it. And as it paid off for the Baltimore Ravens, as it bollocks, he's done fuck all through 2 years. And Tyree Wilson in a Big 12 that is dog shit. Back-to-back 7-sack years, does that impress me? Not in the slightest. You should be taking their offensive line to the cleaners. It's a shitty conference. It's a shitty division. Like I said, he could be the next coming of Lawrence Taylor, but bigger, stronger, bendier, or he could be the next, I don't know, Kyle Vandenbosch. Like I say, it could just not pan out whatsoever. So you're just weighing up the option of a freak premier athlete that has done averagely well, or are you going to take the finished product? Like Will Anderson, the build and the frame, everything's less flashy, but he's done it. He's shown it. He's not as flashy, but he's consistent.
If you're wondering what the noise is in the background, folks, on the audio channel, that is Hank on Ryan's lap snoring. So apologies for that. It's cute as hell. But there we go. Sorry, guys. Just wanted to interject with that.
I never thought I would ever be a Tyree Wilson defender, but here I am. Both him and Anderson this year got misused. If you put Wilson in the alignments that Anderson was put in, and if you put Anderson in the alignments that Wilson were put in, they would have both got a lot more production. So yeah, I completely agree. Anderson is the better player, but both misused, and I can see. And Wilson, if he's taken by, say, the Texans, where they know how to use his kind of player, that they've done it before with Eric Armstead and all that, Ryan's has seen how it works. I could see him really being a hit. Walker last year with the Jags, they don't really know how to use those kind of players. They have Josh Allen, who's done pretty well for them, but then they also took Kylon Chase on, the LSU edge, who's done naffle. They don't really know how to properly use their edges. And that's partly why I think Walker didn't do as well as you'd hope from a first overall pick, even a developmental guy. So I can see it, while it is a kind of traits versus production kind of thing, I think it's Wilson has more this year going for him than Walker did, than Trayvon did last year.
Right, let's move on to the next question. Derek Lewis asks, do we need to draft a replacement for CJGJ? And I'm just going to put Brian Branch's stats on the screen for you now, folks. What do you reckon? Replacement for CJ coming? Do we need to?
Well, not necessarily a replacement, but you've got to draft your long-term future. The long-term future of the position, especially such a valuable position on our defense, you've always got to have a plan B. So why not have 2 of those guys on there? You know, Branch will be learning from one of the best guys in the business in the hybrid role. So if CJG plays well, you pay him, you keep them both, you have great depth. If he bombs, then you've got a replacement plan. If he plays well, you keep both of them. You know, we can't afford to pay him. We've got Branch waiting in the wings. This is, you know, I don't think we draft him as a replacement. I think we draft him as an addition, but in the process, we do protect ourselves if things don't work with CJJ.
I'd say if you can get one, yes. When I weigh up who is due money next year, if CJGJ does play really well, I still don't have him as high as the list of guys that are due extensions. So it would be nice to not have to need him. Realistically, I think it's Brian Branch or you extend Gardner Johnson. I think Branch might be one of the only guys, really, I think, that could match what he's done today or I feel like everyone else is a bit of a gamble. I feel like Branch might be the safest, but I am open to bringing in the nickel corner safety hybrid. And I know, like I say, that even means Jamie Robinson. If he's there in like round 3, I feel like he's probably a flyer. I'd probably throw him. I am already preparing for Gardner Johnson to use us as a platform to get paid. I feel like we're going to be a stepping stone for us to play well, but for him to also get his bag. He wants the bag. And if you don't get it here, then, well, I'd like to have his replacement, a guy already in the door for him.
Thank you, Roy, for saving my life. I thought I would have to use the Jose Mourinho meme to get myself out of that. I would also like to insert Quan Martin as an option. I know Eric has him as his safety too in this class, which for me is a tiny bit high, but I can see it. So there is a range of options. You've obviously got Branch, you've got Jamie, who obviously I love. You've got Quan Martin, you've got Chris Smith, Antonio Johnson can maybe do it as well. So you've got a range of options. He doesn't have to be Branch. So for me, I'm definitely looking at that because at the very least, they can supplant Will Harris in that role as a backup player, and they can do stuff on special teams. It's not like you're drafting them and just sitting there and them going to be twiddling their thumbs for 17 games. So for me, I'm definitely on board with doing it. If it it might not happen, but if it does, I wouldn't be surprised. And if it's obviously a certain player, then I'm going to be dancing and everything.
Mike the Marine asks, do we see a scenario where Ben Johnson comes back for 2024?
Yes.
No.
If his offense is middle of the road, 15th or 16th, then he comes back, because that is not enough for him to get a head coach job, and it is not enough for him to lose his job here. But either side of that equation, then no. If it's too low, he'll get fired. If it's too high, he'll get hired.
I don't think there's many scenarios where he gets fired, even if we're poor. We have to be shambolically bad. I think, given what he's put on his resume so far, I think they chalk a bad year down to just a bad year. I think that the way Ben Johnson comes back is if there's enough unfinished business and he doesn't look like a superstar. So I'm thinking the Lions go 9-8 and don't win the division. I think there are circumstances where that means that Ben Johnson stays. I think the circumstances where Ben Johnson stays are not scenarios where Lions fans want to be this year. So, in some ways, I kind of hope he moves on after this year, because it means we've probably done well enough for him to leave.
Yeah, I'd like for him to leave him on top, like making the NFC title game. And if we're lost and he leaves, at least then we can part ways, knowing that we got the best everything out of him we could. It'd be a win-win scenario.
You kind of feel it's going to be the same with Aaron Glenn. I mean, if his unit's in the 20s again and struggling, then I think they'll fire him after another year. But if he gets that defense into the into the top half of the table, then I think that gives his head coaching, credentials the shot in the arm it needs to get him over the line for a job. So I don't honestly see either of them being here next year.
I can see a situation where they are, and it's one where we still do well and they stay. Because the amount of coaching candidates this off-season that got interviews were seen to be shoo-ins for jobs and didn't. You've got the Bengals DC, you've got the former Broncos DC is now the Panthers DC. You've got all these coaching candidates floating around who could easily do better in the interviews and get the jobs, and Glenn and Johnson still do well, but just because they didn't perform in the interviews, they're still here next year. So that there's admittedly a sliver of a chance. I expect them both to really interview well and probably get a job next off season, but there is that slight chance where everything works out like the best case scenario.
Depends how many jobs there are.
If you said the Lions can win 13 games this year, and that's the minimum, whatever happens in the postseason, but Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn both leave at the end of the season, I would take that trade, because I am confident, one, we can fill them, two, the precedents, say their replacements are already in the building, and three, they're leaving as the best place possible. So even if we didn't win a playoff game, I'd still take them leaving 13 wins. That is a trade-off that I'd probably be comfortable making. But I feel that's probably the the least I'd earn. I want 12, 13 wins before they both leave.
Geordie Mansion asks, how many picks do we actually end up making? It's a question for Wednesday as well, but I thought it was fair enough for now. And do we end up with more or less of next year's picks? Are we giving up some picks from next year, or are we getting some picks from next year? What do you reckon?
5 or 6 this year, and if we're going to do anything with next year's picks, we're gaining them because it's going to be obviously in Detroit, and they'll want as many picks as possible to present to the hometown crowd.
I mean, I don't really see that as been a compelling reason in Brad Holmes' mind. I don't think Brad Holmes is thinking, you know what, I need to give the Detroit faithful as many picks as they can get next year. I mean, he might get it, but the only thing is, if you're late in this draft and you've knocked the draft out, we've seen him do it with, we saw him do it with Barnes a few years ago. If players of value to him start slipping in this draft, and he feels like he can go and get them, and he has to give up future capital to do it, given the position the team is in this year and where they're doing, I could see him doing that. It's just as likely as it is getting picks next year, but I don't think thinking about the fans next year is high on his list.
I think it is because he started off, remember where he started off? PR. You've got to remember, I know he's known as a scout, but he started off in the PR department. I think it's always going to be a voice in the back of his head. It might not be a loud voice, but there might always be a little voice in the back of his head that's always about what is the best look for the team. Obviously, usually the best look for the team lines up with what is the best option available right now. But I think if he is given the option between, let's say, 2 trades, one of which involves only picks this year, one of which perhaps involves picks next year, he'll probably take the one that's got picks this year because of that little PR voice in the back of his head.
You'll pick the option where the most talented players are available to him. That's how he always operates and always will.
Right, next one. Brian Shook asks, who is the most likely candidate to be stuck sitting in the green room, looking at his phone, wishing he didn't wear such an outrageous suit, Aaron Rodgers style?
See, so is that asking who do we think is not going to get picked out of the green room, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Because as much as I love him, and I really do love him, I don't see anyone taking Keon White. I really don't. And I really like him as a prospect. I just don't see anyone taking him there. So he'd be one of the ones who might be in danger for me.
Yeah. That was my answer as well.
I actually don't know who the draft invite players are, so I just need to find the list.
I mean, Zay Flowers could be on there technically. If there's not a big need for receivers, you know,
it is. Hang on, oh God, I just had it up and closed it. The list is Addison, Anderson, Branch, Carter, Flowers, Gonzalez, Johnson Jr., the tackle, Levis, Porter, Richardson, Bijan, JSN, Stroud, White, Wilson, Witherspoon, Young.
White is the one that stands out as obvious. I think everyone else probably goes round 1, and also picks out Flowers. I think he's the guy who might fall out the first round of the receivers.
I think it's Addison out them. Flowers, I know it's probably smoke, but he's getting a lot of traction in the late first right now. Addison, I actually haven't heard that much on. So if it's any of the receivers going to fall out the first, for me, it's Addison out of those.
All right, let's move it on. Brandon Kerr asks, due to the loss of CJ Moore and JMO over the first 6 games, have you guys checked out any third day wide receivers for special teams / speedsters?
Yoshivas. Yoshivas is the speedster. He's not an Olympic track star, but he's a track star. Guy moves like moves like a bat out of hell. So he's the one who instantly comes to mind.
Joseph Nagata, I like from Clemson.
Ah, that's true. God, his stock's tanked.
Who's has?
Yeah. Joseph Ngata, the Clemson wide receiver.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He was like a second rounder into the year. But for me, because obviously, as we all know, I love CJ Moore. I've gone back and I've watched a YouTube compilation of Daniel Scott Jr., the Cal safeties, special teams stuff, because Eric has really highlighted him as an option to replace CJ Moore. So, and he can do it. He has some really good special teams tape, but I don't. Wow, he could. He's got the athleticism to also grow to be more of a contributor on defense than CJ Moore was as well. So, and we've obviously brought him in already on a visit. So he's the guy I'm really highlighting, like late day 3 as a sort of special teamer.
Fucking awful safety though.
He's
And he's
yeah,
going to be
exactly.
20. And he's going to be 25 soon. Ugh.
Yeah, he's definitely not coming in and contributing much on defense year 1, maybe even year 2, but he's got the athleticism to maybe grow into a role, maybe as like a backup to Kirby in single high.
He goes behind Brady Breeze on the depth chart.
Brian Shook asks, how many players do you or do you think Brad Holmes has actual first round grades on? League wide, it sounds like there's about 15 or 16 from what I've heard, but that could all be noise. I don't think we can speculate on what Brad Holmes thinks about it, but what do you think about it, lads? How many people are you comfortable taking in round 1?
I mean,
9. Not even double figures.
I mean, in terms of Brad, I think the fact that he's trying to trade the 18th overall pick tells you all you need to know about how many first round grades he's got on players. I mean, you don't try and trade down if there's someone there you really like. So I'd be inclined to agree with Ryan. I think it would be in the small. I think it might be single figures, but again, it depends. If he's just looking at it position by position, it might be different. Or is he looking, guys, specifically for us that he's got first round grades on? But I don't think it's many. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be shopping pick 18.
I'm a bit more bullish on this class, personally. I think there's a good 20, 25 people. Like, if you're talking about first round guys, I'm thinking I have pick 32 in a normal draft, 31 in this one. Who would I be comfortable taking? Because that's the definition of a first round pick, the lowest definition of a first round pick. I'd be okay with Flowers at 31. I would. Not for a neutral team. Not for me, but just for a neutral team, I think he's a first round caliber guy. I think that Brian Brzee probably just about falls the other side of that line because with the injury problems and whatever that's happened to him, I just don't trust that. But there's so many guys that are kind of near that line that we don't talk about.
So that's the thing. You're talking literally, like, just on the fringe. When I'm thinking first round picks, I'm thinking guys who are really damn good, who definitely deserve to be in first round consideration, not fringe guys. Fringe guys don't count because then I don't think you can really call them first rounders if you're that unsure about them. They've got to be a level above.
Ash, you need to count more quietly.
Sorry.
Than that. Don't do it in the microphone, you pillock. What did your number come out to?
21. I was literally sitting there on your the consensus draft board, just going like, yes, no. So for me, it's 21. I'd have 21 first round grades. But then there's a large group that probably have like second to third round grades for me. So it's...
We've got 3 more questions to get through. I know it's late. This one's a little bit bigger. The next 2 are going to be a bit smaller. This one's from Stephen Collins. Brzee chat seems to be gaining momentum. If Carter is gone, where does Brzee, Cansey, Mazzy, and Benton scenarios rank for you guys? What's prime? What's nightmare? I'm going to start by bringing up the graphic for Brian Brzee. And there it goes, so you can see what he's like there. What do you think about Brian Brzee as a prospect, generally?
I think as a run stuffer, I think in the run game, I feel like he's solid. He can be a solid starter when he's defending the run. I feel like everything else is a work in progress. I feel like he's a very late first, early round second. Marzi Smith, it's just a nightmare. I just don't want to pick him at all. I just don't like him. It's more bias. It's more bias. Keanu Benton, I feel like might be the best value, because I reckon you're getting him to the end of the second round. I feel like he's a good value option for a rotational piece. I feel like Kansas, you're going to have to use considerable capital on him. I feel like that's just kind of a given. 18, God no. You move back to like 24, 25, 26, I'm probably more okay with it. So I'd probably say there. Don't want any of them 18, God no. Let's say any of them between 25 and like 40, I'm probably fine with. Marzi, late second, probably early third, that's probably where I consider him.
I mean, for as much criticism as I've ever given him, Brian Brzee, if he works out to be the player that you want him to be and the player you know he can be, he could be the best player in this draft. And I'm not saying that for hyperbole. He has the potential to be one of the most disruptive, dominating defensive tackles in football because he has absolutely everything that you want in terms of be it traits, prior experience, production. It's just the injuries and the little bits on the side have just been so debilitating for him, and it gives you cause for long-term concern as to whether he can be that guy or not. So with Brzee, it's a very simple question. Do you want to bet on him? He would be a top 10 pick if those injuries would never have happened. I firmly believe that. And for me, there's just too many unknown variables. And there are other guys that I prefer at the position, but I like what he could be. And he's the kind of guy who, if you pass on him and he hits, you're going to be kicking yourself about it for years. And you're going to be one of those that you're going to be told about it for years as well. So, the ceiling is the limit. The ceiling is sky high, but the floor is potentially very bad as well. But I hope he does well. For everything that he's been through, I hope that he is a kick-ass, dominating defensive tackle in the NFL. I just don't think it's going to be with us, but I hope he does.
We all know my feelings on Cansey, but yeah, but him and Breezy are close for me. I just prefer Cansey because I actually think he has slightly higher floor right now and a higher ceiling. But by the by, I do love Benton though as well. But yeah, and I'm agreeing. Marzi, I can see why people like him, but for me, I just don't get it. He's definitely the lowest of the four for me. Cansey being the highest, and probably Breezy and Benton kind of jostling. They're like 2A and 2B for me right now.
In terms of ranking those four after Carter, I have in the order that it is given currently: Brzee, Cansey, Mazzy, Benton. But in order of what I would pick, I would go Brzee, Mazzy, Benton, Cansey. At respective pick positions, which one I like the most. And I articulated why on Brzee, and I won't labour the point for anyone else. Brian Shook asks, will the Lions make 2 picks and 2 picks only at 6 and 18 on Thursday night?
No. I think we'll either make 1 or 3, not 2.
I don't think we'll get a suitable offer for 18. I'm not sure he'll give up the capital to go to 3. I can see a scenario where we pick in our respective positions, but it is simply because the value is not there to move. That would be my thing.
3 picks, 1 at 6, not at 18 but lower, and end of the first as well. So I think something like 6, 20 and 30, or something like that. 6, 21, 29, something in that range. That's my feeling. I think Ant's right though, he's got the nail on the head. There's no real incentive for the Lions to go up from 6. In fact, I'm going to write an article on this specific point. the Lions are in utter dreamland with where they are at 6. Like, it would be great to be higher, but there are at least 6 players it would be very nice to have. If you have a look at all of the top 6 players on your guys' boards, I'm pretty sure you're going to be pretty happy with all of them. And that's a bloody nice place to be. Like, as much as I don't really want CJ Stroud, can see him working out, that would be really cool. Stroud, Young, Richardson would be fantastic for me. I'd be really happy with any of those 3. Carter, Anderson, Witherspoon. Any of those is utter dreamland in terms of where I want to be. Now, the guy I want least out of that is Witherspoon, and he's probably the best fit. So, what are we doing here? Like, this is just great. Like, the really weird thing would be trading up when all of those guys, at least one of them's available at 6. The weird thing would be trading out at 6. Unless you get an exceptionally good offer.
Yeah, that's our point. I don't think the value's going to be there. I don't know who's trading up to 18 for what. I mean, the dearth corners. I mean, not going to trade up for a wide receiver. Maybe a tackle if they fall.
Offensive tackle.
Maybe.
Yeah, because
I think there's a lot of needy tackles.
To jump Tam.
I think there's a lot of needy teams in that regard. I don't know.
Unless Levis falls to 18 and someone like Baltimore or New Orleans wants to jump Tampa because they're scared Tampa will get him and turn him into a really good starting quarterback. They don't want Tampa to get him, so they'll jump them. But that's very, very unlikely. I think the Colts are taking Levis still. And
I think Tampa would jump pre that. I think if he's there at 12 or 13, Tampa jump.
Right, I have got 2 more questions. Sorry for adding one more, but
yeah, this is early for us.
Is it? It's not that early. But it's draft week. We need to give ourselves a break as well when we can. Frank Ribble asks, how many players will the Lions draft that will start or get significant snaps in a rotation?
Ooh. So are we theoretically saying that we just pick 9 here, like we've got? So we just
No. Whatever you think we'll draft and what those guys are going to end up at, I think is the idea.
Between 5 and 6, and they'll all be starters. Or relatively strong playing time. I reckon we're going to give away multiple picks to move up. I don't see us drafting any more than 7 players maximum.
I think 6, 3 starters, 2 rotational, 1 development.
I have 2 starters, 1 backup, 2 development players. I think that one of the first rounders of the 3 that I'm talking about are going to be backups because I think it will be O-line, which I'll dislike, but I think that's what they'll do, and so they'll be backup. 2 starters otherwise from the first round, and 2 guys on day 2 that will end up being rotational pieces. Right, I've added one more as well. Sorry. Steve asks, what pick at 6 or 18 would send you into a ranty tailspin?
Massey Smith.
Will Levis at 6. I
yeah.
I hate him. I don't like the person, don't like the quarterback. He's never going to win me over.
I've just put his bio up for Will Levis, and I don't like the look of him. I don't know why. He just looks like a bit of a twat.
But he's the most prototypical Detroit quarterback out there. So
I think it's time we need to break the mold. We don't need it. I don't want another Stafford or another goal.
I think it's very telling that the only time he looked like a viable NFL quarterback was one of the most quarterback-friendly systems in the pro style.
I don't care if he can throw a ball 50 yards on his knees.
You say that, but we use it as a knock when quarterbacks don't play in the pro style. So I don't think quarterbacks can win, really, can they?
Steve just said Levis at 6 surely is not possible. Well, I assure you it is.
That's entirely impossible. I do not buy this hype that he is top 5. I do not at all. I think everyone is creating smokescreens. If you can convince people that all 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 4 picks, then all those 4 teams in those top 4 picks value goes up. This is all smoke and mirrors, folks, designed to try and get people to panic and pony up for those remaining spots.
Do you really think Jim Irsay is that clever? This is a man who everyone.
Jim
knew he was
Irsay is
fighting-
just an idiot, but he's already in one of the
Exactly.
positions. He can get a quarterback. He's in the top 4, so he can get one.
Exactly, and
regardless.
he has been on Levis for donkey's years. This is not like last year with the Steelers and Mika Willis, where it emerged in the Senior Bowl. Everyone and their dog has known that the Colts have liked Will Levis since the end of last year's draft. It has been one of the most like connected things, and it's just continued on. It's either the world's greatest smokescreen, and he needs to go get a job as a steam train on the railway and the Great Western Railway, or it's the truth and it's going to happen, and Will Levis is a Colt.
Apparently,
Until he
Aaron
turns into
Rodgers
a
is not wearing number
rhinestone
12,
and
by the way.
arseless chaps, and then they
He's
just have
wearing number
one.
8.
Sorry, Ryan.
They love Levis until he turns up in a rhinestone suit with some arseless chaps. Sat in the green room looking like a total fucking bell end, and then no one touches him because he's a weirdo. He's got a bad vibe about him.
We've
With
just
his,
been
with his tub of Hellman's mayonnaise, ready to put in his brew while he's waiting there.
the only
He's
thing
sat
that
there
could put me off him more if
no,
he
I
smothered
would
mayonnaise
punch him.
on the banana. Right, my
That's
pick
an
for
issue
guy
I
at
need.
my pick for guy at 6 I don't want to see is on the screen for you now, which is Lucas Van Ness.
Oh,
Because
God,
I
yeah,
believe with his physical profile, it's entirely possible in the sort of Tyree Wilson way that we fall in love with someone like this. 6'5", 272, 939 RAS, 80 PFF grade last year, 9 sacks, didn't start a game, didn't really matter, bendy guy, good motor, no idea how to pass rush at all, just wins with speed, and I don't see him translating into the NFL in the first couple of years. I think he'll get there eventually, but I don't want him to get there eventually. I want to start now.
So,
It's okay.
with all these graphics you've made, I know damn well you've done ones for the punters, so can we see those?
No,
Please.
I've only done round one
Is that
prospects.
a secret? Is that a secret? I know you've done them.
Do you want me to do 350 player bios? I don't have to. I got a full-time job. I got
Is that
45.
many punters? I only said punters.
Are there any first-round graded punters that you have?
Sorry. What?
First-round graded punters. Do you have any?
Bryce Barringer.
Who?
Good answer.
The bespectacled sex machine from Michigan State.
Steve says he'd flip out of Van Ness at 18, never mind 6. Anyone else got anyone they want to mention realistically that I might have a graphic for to show it off?
I
I
don't
was
want
gonna
Quentin
throw
Johnson at 18. I really don't want Quentin Johnson at 18.
I really don't want Emmanuel Forbes at 18.
Kincaid. I know you guys love him. I just he's not for the system. Not for me. Not that high. If he falls, I'll trade up for him. Not at 18.
And everyone knows I don't want Deontay Banks at 18.
Ditto.
Same.
Way
Same.
too high.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I hate pick 18 this year, because it's just I feel pretty much whoever's there, we're gonna have to reach on someone. For me, it's whoever it is. It's gonna be a reach.
Branch is the only acceptable pick there. For me, he's the only acceptable. Oh, maybe Torrance. Branch and Torrance are the only acceptable picks at 18. Unless someone stupid falls like Porter. But as if we've not taken corner. But Porter
Come
ain't
think
getting
about
past
it, Brian
17.
Branch. He could be the
TA.
guy still sat in the green room at end of first round.
Yeah,
he could fall out the first round. Amazingly, people just might not value what he has.
You know what? It would not surprise me if the Packers went after him. Packers love guys like him.
A few people are saying Darnell Wright, which I'm surprised by, considering he seems to be a darling at 18.
Yes, but he is way too... A month ago, he was a round 2 pick thoroughly. Round 2 pick. That's way too rich for an 18 is.
He's not going to be there at 18. He's going before 18.
Yeah, I think he's going higher than 18 as well. Right. One question to finish it off because it was too fluffy and too perfect to not have it. Nomical45 on Twitch asks, are you more or less excited for this year's draft compared to last year's? Cheers, gents.
I am incredibly excited compared to this year's because it feels like there's real stakes this year. The last 2 years, we've known we are a rebuilding team who are not going to do much during the season. It's just, all right, we've got great players. But this is the year where if you get the right players, the big impact ones, we could be serious or, serious postseason contenders. So this is where it feels like the stakes are the highest, which is why I love it so much. This is the draft he has to nail. I know he's nailed the previous two, but this is the one that takes us over the edge. So I'm excited and I'm really nervous compared to the other ones as well. That like the guys I don't want this year, like my feelings like negatively towards them are a lot more than in previous years. I just don't want us to balls this up.
And for that very reason, far less looking forward to this one. There's just more guys I don't like, and we're in more no man's land picks than we were in the previous 2 years. At 18, if we sat and we're forced to pick someone, and I hate them, it's just, I just feel like it's going to be another Jeff scenario. We just have to sit, take our medicine, pick who we think's best, and pray they work out because no one wants to move out.
I feel like this Tom W guy in the chat hates us. He did this very nasty Falcons mock draft the other week that really upset me to my core. I had to have a night off and just like sit there and cry a bit. And now saying that the Packers could get Anthony Richardson, that's just mean.
No.
That's just
mean.
That's just mean. What I think is a much better scenario is that the Packers use their first round pick. No, hang on. I'm going to upset myself here. Screw it. I'm bringing Ash with me. Jordan Travis has a half decent year. Jordan Love sucks. So they go and get another Jordan instead next year with that extra pick. Just to really rub it in.
How conflicted. He's a first-round pick. He's just a first-round pick for the Packers.
Ash has waited for the day for me to call Jordan Travis a first-round pick, and he's there wishing it had never happened now. Please, Packers, do it for me. That's why
we have Nomical45 subscribing with Prime. It's their third month, says happy draft week all. Darth Tater's now in the chat saying this weekend is huge for the future of the Lions. One Pride 0427 says my birthday is draft day 1, so Thursday. So many happy returns for then. I hope you have a great day, as do I for the Lions as well. And James A. McClaw says, if any consolation, last year I was mad at who he picked. Then I came onto your podcast and listened to Anthony and Ryan rave about the picks. So Brad will make you happy. Tom W says, Tom W, aka Carlos Monarez's burner account. I feel it. I feel it. Right.
That makes sense.
It come to the point now where I'm going to tell you about Wednesday's show and what we're doing for draft day 1, because despite my troubles in making sure that all of the people are locked in for their slots for our interviews for the draft, day 1 is locked in, so I can tell you all about that. First, our show on Wednesday, draft bets, wagers, and takes from the guys, with guest appearance from Chris Perfett, the more than adequate host from Pride of Detroit. That's on Wednesday, 2:30 Eastern, 7:30 UK time. And now on to Thursday, the greatest draft show on earth, the best amateur production you will find anywhere, kicks off at 2:30 Eastern for an hour, previewing day 1 on the day itself. We'll be joined at 10 to 3 Eastern, 10 to 8 UK time, by British Bird Gang, the Arizona Cardinals podcast, just like us, just as passionate. They'll be talking about Arizona's thoughts at 3, or maybe not at 3. So you'll want to check out our preview live at 2:30 Eastern. Then our live stream itself for day 1 kicks off at 6:20 Eastern. That is a bit earlier than we expected to, but we needed to get some more slots in. The actual draft kicks off around 8 Eastern, so we've got about an hour and a half before it kicks off. We'll be joined 20 minutes later at 20 to midnight UK time. That's 20 to 7 Eastern by the UK and Irish Packers. So we can talk all about Rodgers and the trade and what they're going to do with the 13th overall picks. It's going to be a really fun start to the show. It's going to be followed up every 40 minutes by different guests. On day one after the Packers, it's Atlanta Falcons UK, UK Cowboys, British and Irish Eagles, the Panther Nation podcast, DC Tweet Team, the Arrowheads Abroad Kansas City Chiefs fan group, and the Red, White, and Buffalo Blues. Most of these guys we've spoken to at length before. It's a new guy for the UK and Irish Packers. I have a particular soft spot for Maurice from the DC Tweet Team, probably my favourite guest in draft history for us. The Cowboys guys are fantastic value. The Falcons Eagles guys are amazing too. Chiefs guy is really, really good fun. And then the Buffalo Blues are incredible. So for day one, I'm absolutely stoked. It's going to be a terrific show. And Dave, you can talk about Dave. I've only spoken to him briefly. Dave, with the best retro video game collection of all time.
Absolutely. I want Dave to meet Steve. I feel like Dave and Steve are long-lost brothers. I want to try and bring them together for that one. But Dave is the most hilarious man in the world. He's part of Panthers Nation podcast. He did the HBCU draft show with me and Ryan, him and Al, and they came on. It was such good fun. So tune in for Dave alone. He will make you laugh plenty.
Please do join us for the draft show. If you've got ideas for particular bits and pieces you want to see from us, then you know where to find us on our socials. I won't say them again. We've been here a while. If you're on Twitch, I'm going to send you to Chris Perfett, who is perfecting the POD cast preview show now coming up. Sorry, Anne, I saw that.
I'm gonna get the Mike McDaniel gif I use on Ash all the time, and I'm gonna use it so we can do it on the show.
Yes,
I mean,
stick there.
That's Ash's alone, but you're making me use it on you.
Indeed. Anyway, for you guys on the audio pod, thank you so much for joining us. Let's go Lions, one pride.
One prize.
One pride.
Recording stopped.
And for you still live with us, we're going to be going over to Chris Perfett now. So give me a second. I don't know how many people we actually have in the chat here. 5. 5's good. 9. Oh. Cheers, guys. Appreciate you. Have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you on Wednesday. Goodbye.